Chapter 697. The moment Qin Bao saw the photo, her heart stopped beating. In the past, there were often exposés in the gossip news. The editor would insist on who was Qin Zedi's girlfriend and who was Qin Bao Bao's boyfriend. It was so clear and reasonable that Qin Bao Bao wondered if she had really unintentionally dated a huge number of boyfriends. Occasionally, Su Yu and Wang Zijin would accidentally appear in the photo. Because they were with Qin Ziyi, they were suspected of being his girlfriend. Qin Bao Bao never cared because those long-distance photos were not credible. They didn't even hold hands. How could the editor say that they were dating? She would occasionally follow the trend and say, "Editor, your mother exploded." This time, they didn't hold hands. They kissed directly. There was also a photo of them entering the hotel hand in hand. This was irrefutable evidence. Qin Bao Bao imagined countless times that her brother was lonely and went out to find a girlfriend. She prevented Qin Ziyi from taking in a goddaughter, but she didn't allow him to have a girlfriend. In fact, she had a bottom line in her heart. If he really wanted to play with her, as long as he didn't let her know, she would at most turn a blind eye. But it was absolutely impossible to have a girlfriend. But she knew that this was not a long-term solution. People had to grow up. They couldn't escape the fate of marriage and children. How long could they be frozen like this? Before returning from America, Qin Bao Bao refused to plan for the future because she felt that the future was shrouded in a layer of fog and full of rugged roads. Maybe in a few years, when she was sensible or tired, she would let go of her obsession and find a man who was not bad to marry. People had to mature after all. But deep in her heart, she hoped that the salted fish would disregard everything and step on the colorful clouds to find her. After returning from America, she felt a lot more at ease. She felt that the future might be rugged and difficult, but the fog that shrouded it had dissipated. "We have hope to hold hands together, even if we stagger. Giving you a sweet date and then giving you a slap." Reality seemed to like to play this trick. It wasn't just a slap, it was a wake-up call. Wang Zijin and Qin Ziyi had feelings for each other. Qin Bao Bao was not stupid. She could actually sense it, but she was too confident. She was confident in her charm, confident that she could control the wolf in the room, and even more confident that Qin Ziyi could control himself. But she didn't know how scary it was when an adolescent man went crazy. He was like a wolf, a tiger, a leopard, and a swallow in a plane. He would lie down on the ground and *ck the ants. Day cockroaches, day wasps, day worms that crawl into holes. A hole in the door, and a pit in the ground. Qin Bao Bao closed her eyes and held her breath. The conversation between the assistant and the makeup artist, as well as the faint movement outside the door, gradually became inaudible and left her. Then, the world fell into a despairing silence. President Qin, President Qin? Qin Bao Bao was woken up by his assistants. The two assistants stood beside him, looking panicked. "What's wrong with you?" Qin Bao Bao looked at them blankly, like a lifeless paper flower. "You looked like you were having difficulty breathing just now. Do you want to go to the hospital?" the assistant asked anxiously. "I'm fine." Qin Bao Bao took a deep breath and said in a very low and weak voice, "Buy me a plane ticket. I'm going back to Shanghai tonight." Back to Shanghai? The assistants were stunned. Even the makeup artist was dumbfounded. The concert was about to start, and now she was going back to Shanghai. The assistant kindly reminded her, "President Qin, if you're not feeling well, you can postpone the concert. Why don't you go to the hospital? Why do you want to go back to Shanghai?" Clang! Qin Bao Bao swept all the makeup on the table to the floor like a furious female leopard. "Since when did I need you to teach me how to do things? Get out, now." Qin Bao Bao, who was known for being approachable in the entertainment industry, suddenly exploded. The assistants were caught off guard and didn't dare to breathe loudly, including the makeup artist. They should be thankful that their boss didn't put on airs and had a bad temper. If it had been someone with a bad temper, they wouldn't even have had the chance to write a resignation letter. The three of them looked at each other for a moment and quietly left the dressing room. Qin Bao Bao held onto the dressing table and stared blankly at herself in the mirror. She thought to herself, "I can't cry, I can't cry, I can't cry here." However, The sadness that flowed like a river carried with it an irresistible force. It easily destroyed her strength and invaded her tear ducts. Qin Bao Bao slowly slid down the dressing table and sat on the floor hugging her knees with tears streaming down her face. After a while, a few concert managers heard the news and came over. "What's going on? Why does she want to go back to Shanghai?" The two assistants said innocently, "I don't know. She suddenly exploded." "What do you mean exploded?" The manager said unhappily, "Speak clearly. What happened to her just now?" The assistant said, "She was fine just now. We were chatting when she suddenly looked very uncomfortable. We suggested that she go to the hospital, but she wanted to go back to Shanghai. Then she chased us out." The other assistant added, "Boss Qin looked very scary just now. I've never seen her like this before." The two of them would never have thought that the news would cause Qin Bao Bao to explode. To them, the news about Qin Ziyi was just gossip. So, while they were chatting, Qin Bao Bao suddenly exploded. Both of their faces were filled with question marks. One of the managers leaned close to the door and listened carefully. There was a faint sobbing sound coming from inside. The concert was about to start. The singer suddenly threw away the burden, especially a top singer like Qin Bao Bao, the queen of popularity, would definitely cause a national sensation. If an ordinary star, no matter how famous, dared to do this, the entertainment company would immediately let him know who the boss was. However, Qin Bao Bao was the one who threw away the burden. Qin Bao Bao was not an ordinary star. She was the father of everyone present. "Oh, no, mother of everyone present." The other manager approached and raised his hand to knock on the door. He was stopped by his colleague who was eavesdropping. The latter shook his head with a serious expression and asked the assistant, "Help her buy a plane ticket." "Why buy a plane ticket? Get out of the way. I'll talk to Boss Qin." "What about the concert? It's hard to explain to the audience how big the loss is." That person said angrily, "What's there to talk about? Not letting you in is for your own good. After talking, I'll let you go home and farm." After a pause, he continued, "Just tell the audience that Qin Bao Bao suddenly had a physical condition and was sent to the hospital. The concert is cancelled. Change the refund to the money and change the compensation to compensation. Then, the two of you help her buy a plane ticket." He guessed that Qin Bao Bao must have encountered something sad, family matters, or something else. Who would dare to go in at a time like this? Did they think that the salary was too low and they didn't want it anymore? Tonight, Qin Ziyi could not sleep. He was as steady as an old dog in front of Wang Zijin. In fact, his legs were soft, but a man couldn't show his weak side in front of his woman. He had to pretend to be more stable than an old dog. They kissed by the Huangpu River and entered the hotel hand in hand. In the face of facts, Almighty King's verbal skills were useless. This was why he didn't dare to call his sister. She wasn't stupid. Even if you had a glib tongue and could make Suyu weak, it wouldn't help at this time. But his strong desire to survive told him that this was wrong and he should do something. So he was in a dilemma and couldn't sleep. He wanted to turn off his phone, but he didn't dare to. He looked at his phone every 10 minutes, but he didn't receive a call from his sister. His sister's unexpected silence showed that everything was slipping into an irreversible abyss. Half a day after Qin Ziyi and Wang Zijin's relationship was exposed on the internet, his phone kept ringing. There were university classmates gossiping and even at him. They really didn't know what was good for them. One had to know that the salted fish boss could now rush into the University of Finance and Economics at any time. How dare they touch his sore spot in front of him? Then there were the blessings from some of the company's artists. "Blessings my ass, boss, I don't know if I can live until the new year." Then there was the old man, who sent a short message saying, "It's good that it was exposed. It's time for you to make a choice. It's not good to drag on emotional matters. It will delay them. No matter what you choose, you have to give an explanation to the other party. Dad, I'm now thinking about how to give an explanation to your daughter. His mother loved him the most. She called happily and her words were full of joy. She probably felt that her son and daughter were finally together and successfully solved a problem. Qin Ziyi could only be the son of the Qin family, and not some other strange thing. Qin Ziyi was very sad about his mother's happy expression. To some extent, it was even more panicked than when his sister came back with a 50-meter knife. When a card was laid out, it was like a domino effect, and all the cards would be exposed in broad daylight. His mother's flag. At 1 o'clock in the morning, Qin Ziyi couldn't sleep. After thinking about it, he got up and went out. He gently knocked on Wang Zijin's door. "Sister Ziwei, are you asleep?" There was no response, but a few seconds later, the door opened. Sister Ziwei's haggard goose face shook her head silently. "I knew you weren't asleep, so I came to keep you company," Qin Ziyi said. Wang Zijin pushed him out of the door and said in a tired voice, "Don't come in. I'm annoyed." The door closed, and Qin Ziyi stood at the door miserably. Wang Zijin leaned against the door and rubbed her temples. She exhaled a mouthful of turbid air in frustration. She was thinking about how to tell Qin Bao that she had a lot of ideas and had started preparing last year. When Qin Bao came back, she was going to use her flexible tongue to convince Qin Bao. From the day until now, Wang Zijin had been deducing the negotiation process in her mind. She guessed Qin Bao's various reactions, how she should deal with it, and how to subdue her. The worst-case scenario was that her best friends turned against each other. It was not worth it to fall out with Qin Bao over a man, so she had to avoid this situation. At this time, if Wang Zijin had a universe calculation system, she would be safe. Qin Ziyi, who obviously had a cheating device, was in a mess at this time. He smoked in the room and then went to the living room to smoke. At this time, a phone call came in. Qin Ziyi was shocked and quickly reached for his mobile phone. After holding the phone, he paused, took a deep breath, and took it out. "Caller, Nan Man Pei, damn it." Qin Ziyi wanted to take out his 18 centimeters and teach this young woman how to be a woman. He answered the phone and said angrily, "Just say it." Nan Man Pei raised his eyebrows. "Su Yu is drinking here." Qin Ziyi, and then? Nan Man Pei said angrily, "Aren't you her man? She's drinking, and you say then? Can't you come over and comfort her? TSK, every one of them is worry-free." Qin Ziyi said tiredly, Okay, I'll come over right away." In the room deep in the corridor, Wang Zijin was imagining the battle scene and gradually became sleepy. She didn't sleep much last night and consumed a lot of energy. She had bags under her eyes and her oval-shaped face looked particularly haggard. At the moment when she was about to fall asleep, her phone rang and pulled her back to reality. She took out her mobile phone from under the pillow and glanced at the caller. Suddenly, she was awake as if cold water had been poured on her head. It was a crying monster. Chapter 698. Wang Zijin suddenly sat up. The first thing that rose in her heart was not her fighting spirit, but panic. She did not know why she felt so guilty. She was the one who should be strong. She took a deep breath, calmed herself down, and answered the phone. "Zijin, let's talk." On the other end of the phone, Qin Bao said straightforwardly. Wang Zijin was very good at reading people's minds, but at this moment, she could not detect the emotional fluctuations in Qin Bao's voice. It was very steady, very calm, and revealed a sense of determination. "Okay," Wang Zijin said in her heart. "I also want to talk to you. You have to come sooner or later. I will help you cure your psychological illness." So she said, "When you return to Shanghai, I'm already back." Qin Bao interrupted. Wang Zijin was on guard. At the airport. Qin Bao, on the highway. "Let's meet at home." Our old home. She paused for a moment, and finally there was a fluctuation in her voice, with a hint of sobbing and sadness. "Don't let him come." The call ended here. There was no crying or abuse. Wang Zijin knew that this was the calm before the storm. The old home she mentioned was the 80-square-meter small house, which actually carried many sweet and warm memories of Wang Zijin. Wang Zijin got dressed, washed her face in the bathroom, and pulled herself together to go to the living room. Qin Ziyi just hung up the phone and looked at her in surprise. "What's wrong?" Wang Zijin hesitated for a moment. "Your sister called me." Qin Ziyi stood up. "What did she say?" Wang Zijin stared at him silently for a moment and said, "She came back, to talk to me." Qin Ziyi said without thinking, "I'll go with you." Don't go. Wang Zijin shook her head and said in a low voice, some things are not suitable for you to say. I guess she's in a bad mood now. You'll only aggravate her emotions if you go. Leave it to me. This was a solo match between women. Men shouldn't talk nonsense at the side. At this point, everyone understood. Wang Zijin was just short of saying that her sister had a younger brother complex and that she would be responsible for ending it. Qin Ziyi was not in the mood to hide. He knew that things were not over yet. He would either be killed 3 times by the old man or be killed by his sister. He no longer had the opportunity to develop wretchedly. His mother was even more pitiful. She was the dragon in the canyon. After a few seconds of silence, he said, "All right, give me a call if there's anything. I'll be there right away." "Oh right, what's the address?" Wang Zijin said helplessly, "Don't try to get information out of me at this time." "Am I that stupid?" Qin Ziyi said hesitantly, "Can you really do it?" Wang Zijin patted her not-so-plump C-cup gently. "Believe me, I've been waiting for this day for a long time. After tonight, your sister will obediently go home with me and be reborn." After that, she picked up the car key on the coffee table, changed her shoes at the entrance, and went out. Qin Ziyi caught up with her and stood at the door. Looking at Sister Ziwei's back, he was in a trance for a moment. He didn't know if it was an illusion or not, but he always felt that Sister Ziwei was like an old general on the stage, with flags all over her body. Ding! The elevator arrived. Wang Zijin entered the car and took the elevator to the basement floor. After she left, Qin Ziyi also found a car key and went out. He was going to Nan Man Pei's house to appease Su Yu, who was said to have kicked off her high heels and danced on the balcony. Su Yu was a person who had read half of the script. She had already seen his relationship with Wang Zijin, but even if she was an open-minded woman, when she saw those pictures of her beloved man entering and leaving the hotel with other women, she couldn't be calm. It was good to drink alone, it showed that she knew how to vent. Qin Ziyi would be distressed and worried if she kept it in her heart. In addition, he had to lay his cards on the table with Su Yu again. After all, he only read half of the script. These cards were really one after another. He didn't know if he could survive after laying his cards on the table. TSK, human emotions are complicated because they are changeable. Thinking is a kind of brain chemical reaction. It is always reacting, so people's feelings and thoughts are changing all the time. The system sighed. "Are you making sarcastic remarks? Damn low. If you work harder, I'm now Long Outyen, with 72 concubines in the 3 palaces and 6 courtyards." Qin Ziyi walked out of the car and saw the black Lamborghini. He raised his hand and pressed the lock. With a beep, the supercar was ready to welcome him in. It's really an unscrupulous host who picks up the chopsticks to eat meat and puts down the chopsticks to curse. The system said, but no matter how your human thinking changes, in fact, the essence remains the same. I've checked Long Outyen. If there is such a person in the world, then he must be a fickle and selfish scum. His so-called fickle but not fickle is actually just treating women as a tool for pleasure. We are always interested in the things we love, and we will even love it, but we will not really respect it. At any time, there will be another better tool to replace it, or the two can play together, just like the mobile phone. People should not consider the feelings of the mobile phone and choose not to change the mobile phone. I'm not looking down on scum. It makes no difference to me whether a scum is a hero. The talent and wealth you have now, aren't you a Long Outyen? But you can't become the real Long Outyen. You will never be that kind of person because of your thinking. But you also have the bad habits that 99% of men have. People can't love only one person in their life, otherwise there won't be so many exes. You're just lucky to grasp those loves at the same time. Enough, I don't want to listen to your nonsense. Qin Ziyi started the car. The Lamborghini's motor roared as it sped out of the underground parking lot. "If you suddenly came back to life just to talk about human nature with me, then please die. Actually, I'm not talking nonsense. I detected an extremely strong desire in the depths of your heart. But when I wanted to give you a mission, I didn't know how to give it out reasonably." Qin Ziyi was stunned. "What do you mean?" The system said, "This is the first time I've encountered a situation like this. The desire is very strong, but I don't know how to give out a reasonable and complete mission. Qin Ziyi said, I still don't understand. What desire? The system said, a strong desire to live. Qin Ziyi was speechless. The system said, your life is not in danger, so why do you have such a strong desire to live? No matter how smart an intelligent system is, it can't completely understand a person's thinking, because it is an indefinite and constantly changing chemical reaction. Strange, strange. Qin Ziyi said, you've finally exposed the fact that you're low. A real cheat system, can't you read a human's thinking in seconds? However, the system ignored him. Half an hour later, he arrived at Nan Man Pei's house. He pressed the doorbell a few times. The one who opened the door was Li Donglai, who stayed up late playing games. Pei Ziki was still a high school student, so she was already asleep. In the villa, Nan Man Pei's room was still lit up. The window was open, and Su Yu's noise could be heard faintly. Qin Ji, you're here. Li Donglai looked at him with a gaze similar to Brother Funny. Qin Ziyi was irritated and kicked him. Look at your sister. Li Donglai followed up with a mischievous tone. Do you want to look at my sister? She's sleeping in her room wearing suspenders. When Qin Ziyi lifted his foot, he had already turned and fled. His desire to survive was quite strong. It was good that Qin Ziyi was here. Su Yu's aunt was crying at home, so he couldn't concentrate on playing games. Also, he himself said that he would try his best to raise his pants for money, but he was trapped in a love triangle. Li Donglai also saw the news on the internet. On the second floor, Nan Man Pei's room was unlocked. He opened the door and saw the living room in a mess. It was full of paper towels, empty wine bottles, and some side dishes. In addition, Nan Man Pei's cherished ceramic teapot was broken. There was no one in the living room. Su Yu was on the balcony. He entered the room and saw Su Yu on the balcony holding an empty wine bottle in one hand and waving the other. She was shouting incoherently, Wang Zijin, that little bitch, one slap at a time, and then sneak her out the window. She waved her small hand vigorously, see? Sneak out like this. Nan Man Pei sat cross-legged on the floor of the balcony. She was barefoot and her hair was a little messy. She didn't have the slightest Buddhist aura. It was probably because she had been tortured miserably. Seeing Qin Ziyi come over, Pei Nanman, who prided herself on being calm in the face of trouble, felt a kind of joy after the bitterness was over. Immediately after, she became even more furious. She stood up and sent a flying kick. Qin Ziyi held Nan Man Pei's foot with one hand and her waist with the other. He threw Nan Man Pei on the bed a few meters away. She had no power to fight back. He walked into the balcony, took the bottle from Su Yu's hand, and said softly, You? Su Yu stared at him and suddenly said, Oh, you came to pick up Wang Zijin? I threw her out the window. I don't know if she's dead or not. Qin Ziyi was speechless. She's fine, Qin Ziyi hugged her, but you're going to be in trouble. How much did you drink? Nan Man Pei lay on the bed and sneered, How much do you think I drank from night to now? My toilet is almost flooded with her vomit. She was so tired. She couldn't even hold a move. Why do I have to clean up your mess? Look at my room. What's wrong with it? Nan Man Pei said angrily. Qin Ziyi comforted Su Yu and apologized to her. But the one in his arms was still restless. She shouted, She's okay? That won't do. You pick her up. I'll throw her out again. She'll die. Qin Ziyi held back his twitching face and knocked Su Yu out with a knife. Su Yu moaned and softened in his arms. Seeing this, Nan Man Pei was furious. You should be gentle. I can't bear to hit her. She looked for Qin Ziyi to appease Su Yu. She couldn't bear to do such a thing as one-hand knife. Otherwise, what did she want him to do? Sleeping is her best choice. Qin Ziyi looked at Su Yu's face with pity. Let's settle her down with you tonight. He helped Su Yu to the guest room, helped her take off her clothes, covered her with a quilt, turned off the light and closed the door. Then he carefully and patiently helped Nan Man Pei clean the room. He threw the wine bottles, paper towels, and broken teapot porcelain pieces into the black garbage bag. Then he put the pillow back on the sofa. Finally, he spent 10 minutes cleaning up the toilet that smelled sour and alcohol. During the whole process, Nan Man Pei stood aside to supervise, arms crossed, and said nothing. And then, do you want to go back? Nan Man Pei sneered, after all, you have a real girlfriend at home. You sneaked out. If you're found, do you want to kneel on the washboard? The washboard is a joke from hundreds of years ago. Sister Man, your vocabulary is the same as your age, old and low. Qin Ziyi said sarcastically. Nan Man Pei raised her eyebrows, and her jade-like face was murderous. You're looking for death. You can't beat me. Qin Ziyi rolled his eyes. Before she could explode, he sighed and waved his hand. Sister Ziyin is going to kill first. I came here to farm for a while. Later, I'm going to kill someone. There's no rush. Let me have a smoke. Nan Man Pei frowned. What's wrong with you? Qin Ziyi didn't answer. He lit a cigarette, inhaled deeply, exhaled, and said, Sister Man, remember the story of the little boy I told you the other day? Nan Man Pei was silent. Suyu fell asleep. I wanted to tell her, but you can be a listener. Qin Ziyi looked up at the ceiling, and his pupils gradually spread out. Now I can tell you another story. After Sister Ziwei killed someone, this matter would not just be a secret between him and his sister. It didn't matter if he told her, and he didn't have to be so tired anymore. Chapter 699. It was 1:30 in the morning, and the street lamps illuminated the wide highway. Wang Zijin was driving a red BMW on the highway. Her eyes were looking straight ahead, and the focus in her pupils would occasionally disperse and contract. She seemed to have a lot on her mind, but in fact, she was deducing the battle situation in her mind. Should she show a strong side or should she be gentle? The answer was the latter. Like her brother, Ying Monster was soft but not hard. But when it came to love, it was not a good thing to be too soft. When it was time to be hard, she still had to be hard. So she would adapt to the situation later. Wang Zijin felt that she was an undefeated general who was going to the battlefield alone. In fact, she had always been an undefeated general in this aspect since she was a child. Love was a battlefield for any woman, and every woman had to have the awareness and determination to guard their love. After getting off the highway, it would take another 10 minutes to reach the nest. When Wang Zijin was passing through the traffic lights, she almost collided with a Volkswagen on the side. Fortunately, both parties reacted quickly and braked. The window of the Volkswagen's driver's seat was lowered, and the driver stuck his head out and scolded her. Wang Zijin looked up and found that it was already a red light. She had unknowingly run a red light. She patted her face and pulled herself together. Ignoring the driver's chatter, she turned the steering wheel wildly, bypassed the Volkswagen, and drove away. Driving into the community, she turned on the roof light, pulled down the mirror of the visor, and tied her long black hair with curly ends into a ponytail. Wang Zijin usually did not tie a ponytail, because Qin Ziyi said that a ponytail would make her face look big. Although it was a joke, she took it to heart. But a ponytail would add a concise and capable temperament to her, making her look strong. After doing all this, Wang Zijin slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, driving away all the negative emotions. She turned off the engine, pulled out the key, and locked the car door in one go. She strode towards the residential building. Her back looked like a female general heading to the battlefield alone. Pushing open the familiar door, the living room was brightly lit. Qin Bao Bao was standing by the window, silently overlooking the city full of lights. If Wang Zijin's back view was that of a general marching into the battlefield with determination, then she was that of a lost queen, lonely and desolate. Wang Zijin paused and looked at her silently. Qin Bao Bao gazed at the night scenery while she looked at Qin Bao's back. In Wang Zijin's mind, Qin Zi's song Don't Talk suddenly appeared. There was a line in the song that was very appropriate for the situation. If you want, with a black pencil, draw a silent stage play. In such an atmosphere, she suddenly realized that all the lines she had prepared did not seem to be suitable for opening remarks. In this silent stage play, she felt somewhat depressed and inexplicably sad. At this moment, Qin Bao Bao turned around and smiled. You're here. Her smile was the same as before, but Wang Zijin could sense the emotions hidden deep within. As if there was a needle gently pricking Wang Zijin's heart, she nodded silently. Qin Bao Bao walked to the sofa, sat down, looked around, and whispered, "I still think this place is good. It's not big, but it's warm. There's only a wall between me and him. When I'm hungry at night, he can hear me when I shout. When he first moved in, I often couldn't sleep. If I wanted to watch a movie in the middle of the night, no one would accompany me, so I just shouted. Shouting once was enough. No matter how reluctant he was, he would come over. But why is it that as the house gets bigger and richer, the distance between him and me starts to get farther and farther? I thought about it for a long time and figured it out. At that time, he and I were like this house, not big, but pure and simple. We didn't have so many things between us: money, fame, the company, and you. Looking at it now, do you think this place is very small?" Her gaze swept across the living room. "But the three of us would stay in this living room every night after dinner. You watch movies, he does mathematical modeling, and I always like to mess with him. I've liked to mess with him since we were young. There's no reason, I just think it's good. When you came to Shanghai, I thought you would only stay for a while, but in the blink of an eye, it's been 1.5 years. Actually, I was quite annoyed with you after that. Is it really good to stay in someone else's house so shamelessly? Hurry up and leave. If you leave, this will be our territory again. But when I think of you saying that your family forced you to marry someone you don't like, my heart softened. I've been so good to you." Qin Bao suddenly couldn't continue and stared at her. "When did it start?" Wang Zijin opened her mouth and answered honestly, "End of last year." "End of last year," Qin Bao murmured and smiled sadly. "It's been almost a year. You've been hiding it from me for a year. It turns out that I've been fooled by you guys for a year like a fool." Bao, Wang Zijin calmed down and said, "I confessed to him at the end of last year. I love him very, very much. I've never thought of snatching anything from you, but this is how a relationship is. It's wonderful, beautiful, and selfish. When I first met him, I didn't feel that there was anything about him that attracted me. In my heart, he was the younger brother of a close friend. He might be very interesting because in the 3 years of high school, my deskmate always talked about her brother. She always talked about how bad her brother was, but when she talked about him, her eyes were always gentle. I thought that this brother must be very interesting and very different. After I met him, seeing him is not as good as hearing about him. In the beginning, he even showed his admiration for me, which made me feel a little annoyed. I thought to myself that if this brother of mine is like other men, I'll move out after I find a job. You might not believe it, but it was your brother who pursued me first. After getting to know him for a long time, I found that he was indeed different. He was obviously very talented, but he was very timid, as if nothing in the world could be difficult for him. He wanted to pursue me, but he didn't dare to take action. The longer we got to know each other, the more attracted he became to me. I was always so happy when I was with him. But do you know, the person who first made me have the idea of trying to be his girlfriend was not him, but you. Wang Zijin said in a deep voice, "You can't hide it from me. We've known each other for so many years, and we've slept on the same bed for so long. You've never hidden your feelings from me." Qin Bao looked at her in a daze. After a moment, she smiled bitterly. "You're right. I like him. No, I love him. No one in the world loves him more than me." This sentence was like thunder exploding in Wang Zijin's ears. It was actually like this. She had already guessed it, but when Qin Bao said it personally, Wang Zijin's worldview was turned upside down. Do you know what you're saying?" Wang Zijin was shocked. "Your brother and sister. As the elder sister, how can you say such things? Is it strange?" "It's quite strange. Maybe you'll think that I'm shameless to actually fall in love with my own brother." When she saw him chatting happily with another girl, her heart was filled with hatred. When I thought of him being intimate with another woman, or even getting married and having children, I felt like killing someone. There's no such elder sister in the world. Qin Bao leaned back and slammed into the sofa. It was as if she had fallen into the river of time for 20 years. When I was very, very young, I knew that he wasn't my biological brother. He and I accidentally eavesdropped on my mother's phone call, but we didn't know who the other child was. I was older than him, so I was more sensible. I scared him not to tell anyone about it. Just treat it as a secret. That way, we could still be a happy family. He wasn't smart and was very ordinary. At most, he was good-looking. It was because he had such an excellent elder sister that his mediocrity was highlighted. However, he didn't hate his elder sister because of this. Instead, he cared for her and gradually accepted his mediocrity. Many times, my elder sister expected better from him. She hoped that he could pull himself together and become a boy with a temper. In the future, he would become a man with a temper. So I started to bully him, steal his things, and add insult to injury when my father beat me. But he was still so good to my elder sister. When he gave his favorite toy to my elder sister, his timid eyes, like a deer's, deeply hurt my elder sister's heart. Ace was very timid when he was young. He only knew how to play behind me. He didn't dare to say anything when someone stole his mother's new pencil case in elementary school. He even had to ask his elder sister to help him get back at them. One year, I was in the 5th grade and he was in the 3rd grade. He was just a little kid. On our way home from school, a group of boys bullied me. They pulled my hair, stole my bag, and poured out all the books inside. They said that if I didn't want to be friends with them, they would cause trouble for me every day. One of them even lifted my skirt. All I could do was cry. No one came to help me. I couldn't count on anyone. Could I count on a brat in the 3rd grade? But do you know, when I was most afraid, it was this brat in the 3rd grade. He stood in front of me and cried, telling me not to bully my elder sister. Then, he fought them to the death. Qin Bao Bao's mind flashed with images of the past. In the image, the short kid fell down after being kicked and punched again and again. However, he gritted his teeth and stood up, fighting with the boys who were a head taller than him. He was clearly scared and wanted to call for his mother. However, he refused to back down. He gritted his teeth and fought with tears streaming down his face. The girl behind him cried until her beautiful little face was ruined. Even though more than 10 years had passed, this image was still fresh in Qin Bao Bao's mind. It was one of the most precious memories of her and her younger brother. From that day onwards, my feelings for him started to change quietly. I didn't even notice it myself. After that, my younger brother's kindness to my elder sister was no longer pure familial love in my heart. It wasn't pure, but it was very sweet. He was always gentle and modest towards my elder sister. He let me do whatever I wanted and gave in to me. He often complained that his parents' doting caused me to develop a lot of bad habits, but he never reflected on himself. In fact, he was the one who doted on my elder sister the most. All these years, my elder sister became more and more dependent on him. When she was at her most infatuated, she even felt that it was enough for her to have him in the world. Nothing else mattered. A few years ago, when he had his first girlfriend, he came back excitedly to show off to me. Do you know how I felt at that time? It was painful. It was so painful that I wanted to die, just like today. Qin Bao Bao covered her heart and choked with sobs. It was so painful that I didn't want to live anymore. Wang Zijin was silent. At this point, all words were useless. She listened to the girl's endless recollection of the past, revealing her feelings honestly and affectionately. It was a feeling that had been fermenting in her heart for more than 10 years. The moment she opened the lid, what she smelled was not a fragrance, but a heart-wrenching pain. Any words and excuses were suddenly pale and powerless in the face of this feeling. At the same time, Wang Zijin finally understood why she was scared. She was the third party. She was abrupt and discordant in this love that shouldn't have been. It was so discordant that many times, even she herself felt that she was unnecessary. So subconsciously, she felt that she should be scared. Zijin, unknowingly, this heartless woman had tears streaming down her face. Qin Bao Bao used an almost pleading tone. 13 years. I loved him for 13 years. That was my whole life. Please, give him back to me. Give him back to me. Chapter 700. At that moment, Wang Zijin almost couldn't breathe. She stared at Qin Bao blankly for a long time. Her eyelashes trembled, and tears rolled down her cheeks. What about me? What about me? He's my first man, and I hope he's my last. I love him very much too. I've never loved a man like this. I fell out with my parents for him. I said that I'd be happy even if I had to drink cold water with him. All of you shut up. Now you want me to give him back to you? What do you want me to do? Wang Zijin gritted her teeth and wiped her tears. So what if I give him back to you? Can you two be together? No matter how open-minded Uncle Qin is, can he tolerate his son and daughter getting married? Does he know about this? If he doesn't, where do you think I am? Let's take a step back. Even if he's willing, can the two of you really be together? You two are the center of attention in the entertainment industry. The whole country is watching you. How can you two be together? If you insist on being with him, you'll destroy him. Even if you don't care, have you thought about your parents? They'll struggle in the future. Do you want your parents to have such an old age? Uncle Qin is still a university professor. How will he face the teachers and students of the university? What will your friends and relatives think? You've been brother and sister for more than 20 years. Even if you're not related by blood, if normal people have been brother and sister for 20 years, blood relations won't matter anymore. They'll think that you were already in an incestuous relationship when you were still brother and sister. How can your parents bear it? It's useless even if you explain. If it's useful, will there still be cyberbullying? Would there still be rumors and slanders that could ruin one's bones? Do you know how many people are jealous of you and Qin Ziyi? They alone can make you too unable to make a comeback. Did he want to become a joke and a negative example that was rarely seen in the entertainment industry for decades? Be criticized for the rest of your life. Have you thought about how your children will live in the future? At the end, she sounded very agitated. It's useless to go abroad. In this era of increasingly advanced communication, it's useless to go abroad. Reputation is irreversible. From the day you two became top public figures, there was no turning back. Unless he had to stay in a poor and backward village for the rest of his life. But would he be willing to do that? So, regret it. You can never be with him in this lifetime. Qin Baobao instantly lost all of her essence, energy, and spirit, like a withered flower. Big sister man, last time we were talking about a boy with no special features. One day, a beautiful goddess suddenly confessed to him. Actually, before that, there was another oval-faced goddess who confessed to him. But this one is different. She's a diehard fan. It's just that they especially worship you and are willing to sing at the top of their lungs. You are the electricity, you are the light, you are the only legend. At that moment, his heart was filled with joy. Coincidentally, he also had a good impression of that goddess, although at that time, there was no such thing as love. Qin Ziyi exhaled green smoke. Nan Man Pei held the tea, her expression unchanged. The teapot was replaced with a beautiful glazed blue and white treasure. The price was 10 times that of the first broken one. She had kept this teapot as a collection for many years. If it was broken because of this, Nan Man Pei would definitely hang Su Yu up and beat him. She knew that Qin Ziyi was talking about such a thing. Wasn't it about getting drunk that day and taking blood from each other with Su Yu? She had heard it so many times that her ears were about to grow calluses. It was annoying to always show off their love in front of others. But before the two of them, there was actually a girl who loved him deeply. Qin Ziyi paused for a moment and took a deep puff of his cigarette. The boy was born into an ordinary family. He has an extremely beautiful sister. His relatives and friends all praise him. He has received so many awards that his hands go soft. Compared to him, his younger brother, who has never even received an award from an activist, is particularly unbearable. But children also have dignity. The child's heart is more fragile and sensitive. So he began to try to please his sister. As long as he could play with his sister happily, when she enjoyed the praise of the elders, the boy could also rub her glory. He didn't want the elders to shake their heads and sigh at him after praising his sister. But stupid is stupid. There is really no way. The biggest gap in the world is the gap between IQ. It's innate. No matter how hard you work, it's useless. He longed to be a good person like his sister. He wanted to enjoy the praise of his parents and be praised by his relatives and teachers like her. If he can't become such a person, Then get her. Chin Zi bowed his head and looked at Nan Man Pei. Yes, get her. You probably don't understand the pain of a mediocre person. No matter how mediocre a person is, he or she would also dream of being brilliant. He or she would go on stage at the school's spring festival party and play a sad piano song. Then, all the girls in the school and the female teachers would be infatuated with his melancholy back and be unable to extricate themselves. Or when he or she was returning home from school, a 5-kilometer-long car suddenly drove to the school gate. The butler, who was wearing an exquisite and well-ironed suit, combed his hair white and put a white handkerchief on his collar, bowed 90 degrees and respectfully said, "Young master, master asked me to take you home." Or a group of hooligans in the school are fighting over a beauty. At the moment when countless students are attracted to her, you suddenly jump out with a cigarette in your mouth. Indifferent. Your expression and tone must be indifferent. This will make you look cool. Indifferent, you say, "This is my woman. If you don't want to die, all of you should get out of here." Nan Man Pei was speechless. She thought to herself, "Your inner thoughts are so rich when you're young. It's hard for me to complain. Do you think it's funny? But he really, really wants to. He wants to go crazy. But the real him can't be more mediocre. His grades are average, his sports are average, his personality is gentle. In fact, this is the helplessness of mediocre people to please the world." Chin Zi's smile was bitter at first. Then, he suddenly thought of something and the corner of his mouth twitched. When he entered junior high school, the beautiful troublemaker sister caused trouble again. At that time, the hooligans who didn't study were fighting for territory in the school. When they saw a beautiful girl, they would ask to be their girlfriend. A big brother without a sister-in-law was an incompetent big brother. She was so beautiful that she became the hot cake that the big brothers had to fight over. The opportunity finally came. Sister stole 100 yuan from home. There were about 20 people. She said that as long as you helped my brother hold the line, she would give each of you 5 yuan. 5 yuan. At that time, a popsicle only cost 50 cents. 5 yuan could let you eat fish and meat in the cafeteria. Then, she found the hooligans and said that she was Chin Zi's woman. If you're a man, you should draw your sword. Actually, at that time, as long as she explained the situation to the teacher, those hooligans wouldn't dare to provoke her. She was a top student, and the school valued top students very much. Nan Man Pei commented, "She's young, but she's quite scheming. I've never been so flashy. In front of dozens of people, I had a one-on-one fight with the school's bad student leader. In the end, I won. A fight between children is very simple. As long as you're not afraid of pain and fight to the death, it's not difficult to win." Although I looked worse, I shouted at him loudly. I said, "Chin Bao Bao is my woman." Chin Zi grinned. I've remembered this sentence for many years. Now that I think about it, I'm really excited. Nan Man Pei was silent. After that, the boy's desire to get her became stronger and stronger. It was like a black seed buried in his heart, absorbing the negative emotions of the outside world and gradually blooming a black flower. From then on, he began to pay attention to his sister's beautiful figure and beautiful face. He watched as her breasts became fuller and fuller, and she had the charm of a young girl. He still treated her well, but it was no longer the affection of a younger brother trying to please his sister. It was a kind of love that was causing trouble. One day, when he was playing with his sister, the friction of their bodies made him have a physiological reaction. In his adolescence, he suddenly understood that it was difficult for him to treat his sister, who he had spent more than 10 years with, as family. At one point, he felt a huge sense of guilt. He felt disgusted as a creature in a dirty pigsty. Until one night, his sister knocked on his door while his parents were asleep. They slept on the same bed and talked about meaningless things. The younger brother was very well behaved. He felt that if he exposed his inner impulses, his sister would never get close to him again. However, God didn't close all the windows for this humble and ordinary child. He left a window open. That night, his sister kissed him. Nan Man Pei was stunned. In the darkness where there was no light, he heard his sister's rapid breathing. He imagined his sister's blushing face and her moist and shy eyes. A huge sense of happiness exploded in his heart. He was sure of one thing: his sister liked him. It wasn't a simple brother-sister relationship, but the kind of love that a girl secretly likes a boy. Qin Ziyi laughed bitterly. But so what? His life was so mediocre that there was no highlight to speak of. Such a person, other than going with the flow, what ability did he have to change his fate? He didn't even dare to be angry with his father. All he could do was to hide his feelings in his heart. In the years that followed, the two of them tacitly hid their secrets. A secret kiss could be sweet for half a day. They passed through junior high school, and university. No one dared to touch the feelings in their hearts. His sister stubbornly refused to go on blind dates and refused to date any boyfriends. Because she already had someone in her heart. That useless brother. The younger brother was more rational. He knew that he couldn't do it. Deep in his heart, he felt that he couldn't do it. He was so useless. His greatest achievement was the big house that was destined to be left to him by his family. So he started to try to find a girlfriend. Time always dilutes everything. No matter how solemn their love was, it couldn't beat time. The perfect ending for the two of them was that he married a local wife, and his sister married an outstanding man. Everyone continued to hide their secrets in their hearts, leaving behind fleeting time, and moving forward into the future. Later, the boy finally grew up. He started to show his talent and became a child praised by his relatives and friends. He became someone else's child. He could do whatever he wanted in the entertainment industry. He was undefeated in the business world and earned a lot of money every day. However, his cowardly nature was rooted in his heart. Even if their names were not related by blood, he still did not dare to lay his cards on the table with his parents. He did not dare to loudly tell his parents that baby Qin was his woman. He was terrified to the core. So he held on to his sister and didn't let go. At the same time, he yearned for love openly with other women. He became arrogant. Nan Man Pei knew why Qin Ziyi said these things to her. She also knew what Wang Zijin was doing. Everything stemmed from yesterday's news. Since he already got the love he wanted, why didn't he stop before it was too late? There are too many beautiful things in life. There will always be people who miss out. He shouldn't be obsessed with the fleeting past. If he knows that it's wrong, he should cut it off, Nan Man Pei said gently. I can't kill him, Qin Ziyi murmured. Others only see his brilliance, but who has ever seen his humble and weak side? Who would like that incompetent and useless version of him? Only my sister, he said. Nan Man Pei was silent. She didn't know what to say. This confident, calm, and talented young man in front of her took off his heavy armor for the first time in front of her. Inside was a timid and humble little boy. Perhaps this was the real him? Chapter 701. At 2:00 in the morning, Wang Zijin went out of the door in a daze. The moment she closed the door, she turned around and saw Qin Bao sitting on the sofa in a daze, like a delicate puppet that had lost its spirit. Murderous intent. Every word that Wang Zijin said when she was excited hit Qin Bao's weak point. But she was not complacent at all, and she even lost the interest in pursuing the victory. At this time, if there was a bottle of wine, Wang Zijin would not hesitate to get drunk. There was no result from this conversation, and it was impossible for there to be a result. She tried to be strong, but when she saw Qin Bao's tear-stained face, she couldn't bear it in the end. It was really like the old saying that the battlefield changes rapidly. Before she had time to use the combo in her mind, Qin Bao took the lead. It was the first time that the girl had revealed her heart. Can you imagine that under her heartless appearance, there was such a deep-rooted love? No, it was not love, it was love. Wang Zijin was unable to refute, let alone deny it. She only felt that fate was like a naughty child, always playing some fatal jokes with adults, but she couldn't hit its butt. Stepping on the dim streetlights, she returned to the car and sat alone in a daze. At this point, she couldn't cut off this love that shouldn't exist by waving a butcher's knife. When she finished listening to Qin Bao's self-description, she knew that the girl was deeply in love and couldn't extricate herself. Deep in the forest, she saw a deer, and deep in the sea, she saw a whale. Qin Bao was too deep in this love and couldn't turn back. What about him? If the elder sister was like this, what kind of mentality would the younger brother have? Thinking of this question, Wang Zijin fell silent. The fear in her heart was fermenting, and it was also the reason why she hurriedly ended the negotiation with Qin Baobao. It was like a general on the battlefield who suddenly received a secret letter about a secret deal between the imperial court and the enemy country. At this time, what the general should do was to continue fighting the enemy bravely, or stay still and wait for the imperial court's orders. Or return to the imperial court to confront the fatuous emperor. After a long silence, she took out her cell phone. After some hesitation, she called Qin Ziyi. On the other side, Qin Ziyi finally finished pouring out the worries that had been bottled up in his heart for more than 10 years. He felt much better. Indeed, Nan Man Pei was not a good listener and would not comfort him gently. But these words were better said to her than to Su Yu. After Su Yu knew about this, he didn't know if his mentality would explode. She had always thought that her enemy was Wang Zijin. Of course, that was not wrong. However, she did not know that there was a big boss behind the second boss. I have a donkey, but I never ride it. Nan Man Pei was speechless. Qin Ziyi was speechless. To be honest, in such a sad atmosphere, it was a little discordant to suddenly play such a cheerful nursery rhyme. Just like at a military parade, the solemn national anthem suddenly switched to a divine TikTok song. Let's learn how to meow like cats. Meow 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 meow. The caller was Wang Zijin. Qin Ziyi got up and walked to the balcony. At the same time, he picked up the phone. Sister Ziwei. Nan Man Pei quietly followed a few steps and pricked up her ears, desperately trying to eavesdrop. But Qin Ziyi turned around and closed the door. He walked to the balcony and the sound disappeared. Nan Man Pei was not satisfied. Why did you close the door? I won't eavesdrop. This is my room, okay? Qin Ziyi ignored her and locked the door. I've finished talking with Bao Bao. Wang Zijin's tone was calm. Qin Ziyi's heart skipped a beat and he did not speak. How did it go? In the end, he squeezed out this sentence. She asked me to return you to her, Wang Zijin said. Sister Ziwei's tone was so calm that it made Qin Ziyi panic. The sister complex that he had hidden for many years had been exposed in front of his girlfriend. No man could face it with a smile anymore. Before I met her, I was very confident. I thought that it was one-sided and not enough to affect us. What I wanted to do was to let her choose to accept it calmly. I went to appease her, but now... Wang Zijin paused and did not continue. After a moment of silence, she said that brother needs to be more rational and self-aware. He once tried to get a girlfriend to let her and her sister give up. She stopped him once, but she knows that she can't stop him forever. Qin Ziyi, there's something I want to ask you. Answer me honestly. She called out Qin Ziyi's name. Ever since the two of them became familiar with each other, she had never called him by his name. You said, we haven't known each other for long, but you took the initiative to pursue me. You seem to like me very much. Are you sincere or just acting for my sister? Wang Zijin said in a low voice. Don't patronize me. I'm sincere to you now, Qin Ziyi said in a low voice. Wang Zijin said bitterly, yes, you've never been the kind of person who can't walk away when he sees a beautiful woman. I should have thought of it. But I didn't show that I was willing to give it a try at first for you. We're all the same. Neither of us is pure enough. Qin Ziyi was silent. He didn't know what Sister Ziwei was thinking. At least, it didn't matter to him whether the affection was pure or not. There were many ways for men and women to fall in love. Love at first sight, love after a long time, he had never seen the former. The latter was like him and Su Yu. As long as the two of them fell in love with each other, it didn't matter what the pattern was at the beginning. But when Qingyu might be a little obsessed with emotional cleanliness. So Qin Ziyi couldn't say, bro, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's not bother about it. That's not important. Wang Zijin sighed faintly. Bao Bao, I know what's on your mind. What about you? Aze, if you had to choose between her and me, who would you choose? This question was harder to answer than whether I should save your mother first when she fell into the water. Qin Ziyi was silent. Wang Zijin waited in the car for a long time, but there was still no reply from the other end of the phone. Her heart gradually sank to the bottom. Wang Zijin was even prepared to be humble. She would say, "I won't be scheming or arrogant anymore. I won't keep you in suspense anymore. Please choose me. Although choosing me would make you bid farewell to that period of youth, I still want you to choose me. Please, you must choose me." She couldn't say those words. Qin Zedi's silence gave her the best answer. In the desperate silence, Wang Zijin chose to hang up the phone. The light on the roof of the car emitted an orange and dim light. Wang Zijin held back her tears for a long time. She finally collapsed. She leaned on the steering wheel and cried bitterly. She cried like a child. It was heart-wrenching. Nan Man Pei silently guessed the conversation on the balcony. Her fake character as indifferent as Chrysanthemum and her real character as violent and irritable had never made her so obsessed with other people's gossip. Like Su Yu, she always thought that her best friend's enemy should be Wang Zijin. She also noticed the unusual relationship between Qin Baobao and Qin Ziyi, but she didn't care about it. Who would have thought that there would be a sudden reversal? It turned out that the brother and sister had such a complicated relationship. Damn, it's so exciting. She thought again of Wang Zijin's seemingly dignified but actually strong character. How could a proper official's daughter tolerate this kind of thing? Thinking of this, it was even more exciting. Nan Man Pei was not a simple gossip. She was a little worried about her best friend's future. Wang Zijin was already difficult to deal with. What about Qin Baobao? Even if two tigers fought, one would be injured. However, it was easy for the injured tiger to turn around and bite a melon-eating teddy bear to death. Although a teddy bear was stable as a concubine, it was not a good empress who didn't want to be the emperor's concubine. She might not be willing. Nan Man Pei pinched her temples. She was a little worried. In addition, there was a sense of irritation and loss rising from the bottom of her heart. Qin Ziyi listened to the busy tone on the phone and stood on the balcony in a daze for a while. He subconsciously wanted to reach for a cigarette, but then he remembered that the cigarette box was in the living room. He couldn't give the answer Wang Zijin wanted. It was useless to say too much on the phone. So he sent a text message to ask where she was. She didn't reply. When he called her again, her phone was turned off. Qin Ziyi left the room, picked up the cigarette box and coat on the sofa, and strode out. "Sister Man, please take care of Su Yu. I'll go back first." Nan Man Pei chased out of the door. "What's the situation?" "Qin Ziyi, it's none of your business." Pei Nanman took off her slipper and threw it at Qin Ziyi, who was on the stairs. It hit him right in the head. He left without looking back. "Go away, little boy," Nan Man Pei shouted. Chapter 702. Qin Ziyi returned to his home in Royal View Mansion. The light in the living room was dark and there was no one in the house. He sat in the living room. Hei's king's heart was not calm, but depressed and tired. In this messy relationship, there were many things he could do, but the final choice had nothing to do with him. This was also the reason why he did not answer Wang Zijin on the phone. He thought that Sister Ziwei was so smart that she should be able to get his meaning. He was thinking about how to communicate or how to talk later. After thinking for a long time, he still could not come up with a good idea. He decided to frankly disclose his thoughts and feelings, which was his greatest sincerity. He smoked one cigarette after another. In the blink of an eye, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. Wang Zijin had not come back. Didn't she finish talking with his sister long ago? Did she sleep in the same bed with his sister again? No, it was impossible. Qin Ziyi was already thankful that they did not fight. His sister was either in the hotel or in the old house. Qin Ziyi put out the cigarette and called her. The voice message said that her phone was off, and it was off again. Sister Ziwei and his sister worked together to hang up the phone. He pondered for a moment and decided to go to the old house first. At this time, he should meet his sister first. Qin Ziyi went to the porch and put on his shoes. When he was about to open the door, he suddenly froze. The picture of the living room popped up in his mind. The items were restored one by one. One bottle of wine on the wine rack was missing. The shoes at the porch were more messy than before he went out. The things in the living room also had traces of being moved, Chin Zi's scalp tingled. He opened the shoe cabinet and took a look. Half of the high-heeled shoes were missing. Then he rushed to Wang Zijin's room and opened the wardrobe. The clothes in the wardrobe were also missing. She left and took away some of her favorite clothes. She ran away from home without a word. His gaze swept across the room, but he didn't see any messages from her, nor did he see any items. For example, the lady's wristwatch Chin Zi gave her. Chin Zi went out and drove to the house where he and his sister lived for 3 years. Wang Zijin left without saying a word. Chin Zi couldn't find her, but he could find his sister. She must be in that house. Chin Zi knew her too well. The Lamborghini drove in the dark. There were few cars on the road, and the bustling city during the day fell into a deep sleep. There's no time to make it more spectacular. Preserve the dignity of a farewell. I love you without regret and respect the end of the story. A breakup should be a dignified one. No one should apologize. The projection of the Point store suddenly popped up, and the sound of singing filled the space inside the car. Only Chin Zi could see and hear. Chin Zi was speechless. Damn it, I'm going to swear. What a lowly system. Don't be so intense, I'm just playing a song to relieve your stress. The system said, just for the occasion. Other people's systems would help the host cheat, pick up girls for him, and dominate the world for him. My system kicked me in the head when I lost my footing and drowned. Chin Zi was in a bad mood, so he couldn't be bothered with it. You don't like it? No problem, I'll change it for you. I have plenty of them here anyway. The system said considerately. The song changed. The wind blows the rain into flowers. Time can't catch up with the white horse. We agreed not to separate. We'll always be together. Even if I'm against time. Even if I'm against the whole world. He almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. Chin Zi gritted his teeth and said, I really want to crack open my own brain, then pull you out and chop you into pieces. After kicking it, it even threw stones at you. System, asterisk, after Big Sister and Big Sister Xian had stabbed him in the back, the system had also stabbed him in the back. He was an actor. But it couldn't do anything about it. Chin Zi could only bear with it. He drove to the neighborhood and looked up. From this angle, he could see the living room. The living room lights were still on, and it was especially conspicuous in the dark residential building. His sister was really here. Chin Zi leaned against the Lamborghini, looked at the lights, silently finished a cigarette, stepped on the butt, and returned to the car. Don't you want to go up? Maybe she's waiting for you with the lights on. The system said. You don't know her. She must have forgotten to turn off the lights when she slept. She won't want to see me now. Chin Zi started the car and left the neighborhood. I just came to take a look, and I'll be relieved. Fortunately, she's still in my sight. She's still waiting for me. Back at Royal View Mansion, it was late at night and he couldn't sleep. Sitting alone in the empty room, scenes of the past appeared in his mind. Sister Ziwei sitting on the bed with a blushing face, watching him sneak into the room in the middle of the night. Sister Ziwei dressing in front of the mirror, looking back with a smile. On the big bed, the two of them were entangled together. He sat on the edge of the bed dispiritedly. Time passed little by little. The sky outside the window gradually turned white, and then the sun rose. He unconsciously sat there for the whole night. At 7:10 a.m., a text message came into the mailbox, and the sound pulled Chin Zi back to reality from his daze. A's, I'm going back to the capital. The flight is at 7:40 a.m., and I've already boarded the plane. I didn't get your reply, and I'm very sad. Grandpa said that the art of controlling people is nothing more than a combination of kindness and power. But no matter how brilliant the art of controlling people is, it's useless in the face of love. I didn't understand it before, but now I do. After listening to Bao Bao's words, I was at a loss and very sad. There should be no sympathy or pity in love, but I know that she loves you more than me. What kind of feelings can be hidden in the heart for more than 10 years? The moment I opened the lid, I saw despair in her eyes. It was the sadness of a girl. At that moment, I was so sad that I couldn't speak. But I'm a selfish woman, and I still can't stand a third party in my love. I value it more than my life. The text message was very long, and she sent a few in a row. In the past year or so, I met an interesting boy and regained my love. You're different from all the men I've met. You're narrow-minded, indecisive, and sometimes, you're a damned child who makes people hate you. But because of your indecisiveness, you've maintained the happiness and stability of this family for more than 10 years. Bao Bao can't do that. She's too stubborn about love, and she's even willing to burn herself and the people around her. But your sadness isn't any less than hers. When you were silent on the phone, I knew it. You're just used to suppressing your emotions in your heart, just like when your parents and relatives were disappointed. You silently accepted it and licked the wounds in your heart. You're always like this, showing your kindness and gentleness to the world with trepidation, afraid of the disappointment in others' eyes. You have many shortcomings, and I'm not a good girl either. I'm two-faced, scheming, and smiling to others. But in my heart, I'm thinking, this idiot, let's see if I don't play her to death. You've already seen through my true nature, but you don't dislike me at all. I'm very happy. Because I know this has nothing to do with my family background. During this period of time in Shanghai, I've witnessed your growth. I've seen you, who had nothing, become a rising star. Some people say that being able to accompany a man from poverty to prosperity is the greatest happiness for a woman. This is also my happiness. At least my mark in your life won't be much lower than hers. I've met many sons of rich families, and I've also seen even more sons of poor families who became all-powerful in the end. The former think they're better than others, while the latter are arrogant and scheming. They're all inferior to you. You've always maintained your original heart, and I can see it from your attitude towards her. No matter how unwilling I am, I have to accept it. Shakespeare said, "The path to true love is not smooth. So we'll have to part for now. Forgive me for not wanting to see you now. Seeing you will only make us more depressed and sad. We'll give each other time and space to calm down. I want to be alone, and you need to be alone too. I don't want to call you. I'm afraid you'll ask me who Jingjing is. You're always like this. Sometimes, I like your frivolity, and sometimes, I hate it. I'll have to trouble you with purple crystals matters. I've left the bank card in the drawer. Initially, I wanted to go home with you during the new year. After the engagement, I've been planning how to use the money inside. First, I'll have to buy a house of my own. The renovations can't be as luxurious as the place I'm living in now. It has to be simple and stylish. Your study has to have an antique shelf to store some antiques. You also have to have a bookshelf. I have a lot of books that I want to buy, but I don't have a place to put them. Then, I'll steal Grandpa's most cherished bronze beast paperweight and give it to you as a treasure to guard your house. There's too much I want to say, but I don't think it's necessary to say it. When you've thought it through, no matter what your choice is, please give me a call. I hope it won't take too long. In the end, I don't regret meeting you in the best time of my life." Qin Ziyi silently put down his phone. His eyes were red. "Aren't you going to chase after her? Even if she's already taken off, it's only a 2-hour journey from Shanghai to capital city. You can still bring her back," the system said. Qin Ziyi ignored it, in case it took the opportunity to add insult to injury. The system chattered on. Women say no, but in reality, they want it very much. Their words should be heard in reverse. Still ignoring it, the system said helplessly, "Go on, go on. I'll give you a mission too. How long has it been since you've done a mission?" Qin Ziyi shook his head. "She's right. Chasing after her won't help, because she hasn't thought it through. She doesn't have an answer in her heart. There's no point in chasing after her. Give her some time. She needs some peace and quiet." Qin Ziyi walked to the window and pulled open the curtains. The warm sunlight poured in like water. His eyes were wet again. "Man, cry. It's not a crime to cry. No matter how strong a man is, he has the right to be tired," the song came again. In the end, he still couldn't avoid the system's stone. At Hongqiao Airport, the plane rushed out of the runway. With its head held high, the wings of the plane swept across the blue sky. Wang Zijin sat in the first-class cabin by the window. She didn't sleep for the whole night. Tired, she leaned against the seat and dozed off. A tall stewardess walked past her. Her eyes swept across every passenger, checking if they had fastened their seatbelts. When she saw Wang Zijin, she was stunned. After a moment of careful observation, she said excitedly, "You're Qin Zedi's girlfriend?" The passengers in the first-class cabin all looked at her. Wang Zijin raised her head, looked at her, and smiled. She looked down at Shanghai silently. The plane rose higher and higher, and the city became smaller and smaller. The moment it rushed into the clouds, the whole of Shanghai disappeared in front of her eyes. She closed her eyes and tears fell silently. Goodbye, Shanghai. Chapter 703. December 12th, the weather was clear and the wind was cold. A week after Wang Zijin left, Qin Ziyi stayed in the big house in Royal View Park for a week, alone. His sister had moved back home. She had planned to hide in the small house by herself, but the news of Qin Baobao's concert being interrupted spread all over the internet. The official reason given was that she had a sudden physical condition and needed emergency treatment. Qin Ma and Grandpa Qin saw the news and were scared out of their wits. Bao Bao was the apple of the Qin family's eye, the apple of their parents' eyes. Qin Ma said that she wanted to move in with them so that she could take care of her daughter's daily needs. Qin Bao Bao couldn't explain why she moved back to the small house. She said that she didn't need to and that she was in good health, but her parents were worried. They had to keep an eye on their daughter to be at ease. Qin Bao Bao had no choice but to move back home from the small house and live the life of a rich young lady. She went to work as usual. Qin Ziyi went to Tianfang once to try to coax her, but his sister kept a straight face the whole time. She didn't talk to him or look at him. It was as if the person beside her was no longer a brother who kissed and hugged her, but a stinky and disgusting salted fish. He didn't know what his sister was thinking now. If she was a volcano that could erupt at any time, Qin Ziyi couldn't pester her in the company. There were too many people and it wouldn't be easy to clean up the mess. In addition, he had just signed the game development agreement. Purple Crystal Technology had a lot of work to do. He could only accept his sister's Cold War. It was useless to coax her now. He could only wait for her anger to subside a little before they could talk. However, Qin Ziyi always paid attention to his sister's mood and state. He called Qin Ma every day to ask about it, or checked the surveillance at home. Every few days, he could see his sister returning home when he was at work. She would move her cosmetics, clothes, and perfume. Wang Zijin had completely cut off contact with him. Her phone was turned off, and the chat app seemed to have been blacklisted. Qin Ziyi tried to call Zhao Taizhu to get some information from him, but Zhao Taizhu, who was his brother on the surface, did not give him any face at all. He said, "Who are you? Do I know you?" Qin Ziyi said, "Brother Taizhu, it's me, Qin Ziyi." Zhao Taizhu said, "Sorry, I don't know a little wolf dog named Qin Ziyi." Qin Ziyi said, "Brother Taizhu, don't be like this. You didn't block my number, which means I still have a chance." Zhao Taizhu said, "Little wolf dog, you're thinking too much. I just don't want to be unable to find you when it's time for the bonus." Zhao Taizhu is Wang Zijin's #1 henchman. You can't expect him to help you at any time. Qin Ziyi helplessly discovered this fact. And Zhao Taizhu is like this. Who can he count on Wang Zijin's friends in the circle? Su Yu didn't seem to know that his real girlfriend and sister had a showdown. He thought that Nan Man Pei would tell her the story of the night, but she didn't. Qin Ziyi deliberately called and carefully asked about it. Nan Man Pei coldly snorted, "Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? You don't have the confidence to tell Su Yu, so let me be the messenger. What if she goes crazy again? Am I your mother? Should I help you carry the thunder?" Qin Ziyi knew that she was helping him hide things. The two countries were at war. No matter how fierce the war was, it was always better than the romance of the Three Kingdoms. It was hard to imagine how he would deal with Su Yu's crying, and hanging in the current situation. Qin Ziyi whispered, "Thank you." Nan Man Pei muttered, "I'm not helping you. I just don't want you to make a choice that you will regret for the rest of your life under impulse, and I don't want Su Yu to be like this." Sister Man was rarely arrogant. Qin Ziyi thought about it. He didn't know what her expression was like at this time. Would it be cute? On Friday, after getting away from the complicated affairs of Amethyst Technology, Qin Ziyi dragged his tired body home. It was not Royal View Grand Court, but his parents' home. He came to see his sister. At 7:30 in the afternoon, after a long rush hour traffic jam, he finally got home before his parents finished eating. Taking out the key to open the door, his father's frowning and dissatisfied tone came from inside. "You don't know how to sit, put your feet down." Sister's voice was coquettish. "Mom, I'm not feeling well, my head hurts, Dad still has so many rules." "Qin Ma, don't worry about him, where are you uncomfortable, go to the hospital." The family of three was alarmed by the sound of the door opening and looked at the door. Qin Ziyi took off his coat and hung it on the hanger, put on his slippers and said, "Mom, is there still food?" Seeing that he had come home, Qin Ma was very happy. "There's not much in the pot, you eat first, if it's not enough, Mom will cook noodles for you." "Why didn't you tell me you were coming back?" The old man nodded slightly, and sister, who was sitting cross-legged on the chair, immediately put on a straight face, put her feet down, got up, and walked to the room. "Hey, where are you going? We haven't finished eating yet." Qin Ma said. "I don't want to eat." Qin Bao didn't even turn her head. "That's good, we don't have to worry about not having enough food." Qin Ziyi sat down on his sister's seat and picked up her half-eaten bowl of rice. Qin Bao's footsteps paused, and she went back to the room expressionlessly. "This child," Qin Ma muttered. Her daughter had left, but she still had her son. When Qin Ma looked at her son again, she found that he was much more haggard. The most obvious were the 2 bags under his eyes, and his eyes were much dimmer. Whether a person was tired or not, the eyes were a direct indication. "Is work so tiring? You don't have any spirit in your eyes," Qin Ma said with heartache. The old man also looked at him and said with a frown, "You can't make enough money, take care of your health." Qin Ziyi nodded and said, "Sister Ziwei has returned to the capital. There are a lot of things to do in the company, she's a bit busy." Wang Zijin had returned to the capital for a week. The reason that Qin Ziyi gave was that something had happened to the old man of the Wang family, and she went back to visit. Anyway, the old man couldn't hear, so he probably wouldn't send someone to invite him to eat peanuts. "When will she come back?" Qin Ma asked. When the old man gets better." Qin Ziyi said, "It's possible that the old man can lie in bed for 1.5 years. Let's not talk about this, how's my sister?" Qin Ziyi changed the topic. "Much better, I guess, although I don't know what's wrong with her." Qin Ma was confused and said, "For the first few days after she came back, she was in a daze and didn't come out of the room, she was listless. Once, I asked her to wipe the sink, she wiped it with a towel. She often left things everywhere, and when she couldn't find them, she lost her temper. She's much better now, she can smile." Then, she frowned and whispered, "She doesn't look like she's sick, she looks like she's heartbroken." "Tell me, what's going on?" Qin Zi's heart trembled. "She doesn't look like she's heartbroken, she's clearly sick." "Yes, she's sick. By the way, Mom, don't tell me the towel she used to wipe the sink is mine." Qin Ma was stunned. "How did you know?" Qin Ziyi, Qin Ma and the old man looked at each other and frowned slightly. They sensed that things weren't simple. Of course, they knew what kind of person their daughters were. If both of them were like this, something must have happened. Then, they thought about how their daughter claimed to have found a boyfriend and said that she would bring him home for them to take a look. How long had it been? That was why they shouldn't plant flags casually. It wouldn't end well. Like I said, how good can her taste be if she doesn't have a boyfriend at this age? She's just a troublemaker, how did she grow up to look like this? Qin Ma murmured. Qin Ma was more worried. She felt that her daughter must have met a heartless man who was attracted to her. If she knew that the other party was her son, how would she feel? That was why it wasn't a good thing for a woman to be too beautiful. Qin Ziyi shrunk his head and pretended that he was eating attentively. After dinner, Qin Ziyi said that he had a bad headache and went to bed. While the old man was watching TV in the living room and his mother was washing the dishes in the kitchen, Qin Ziyi tried to open his sister's door. The door was locked. He knocked on the door, but there was no response. His sister ignored him. Qin Ziyi could only go back to his room. He was indeed very tired. Work was one reason, and another reason was that he couldn't sleep these few days. He tossed and turned, unable to sleep. People with a lot on their minds would be like this. With a knot in his heart, he had insomnia and dreams. His strong body couldn't take it anymore, and he was especially tired. He lay on the bed, smelling the smell of the sun on the bedding. He felt inexplicably at ease, like a wandering child who had finally returned to his home. Qin Ziyi gradually fell asleep. Qin Bao Bao went out to the toilet. She glanced at her brother's door and walked in the direction of the smell from the kitchen with a gloomy face. Qin Ma was stewing chicken soup with wolfberry, bird's nest, ginseng, and some spices. Qin Bao Bao didn't have enough for dinner. She swallowed her saliva when she smelled the aroma. She smiled and said, "Mom is the best. You're giving me special treatment. Give me a spoonful." Qin Ma glanced at her. "You're not full? I'll make noodles for you later. The chicken soup is for your brother." Qin Bao Bao said angrily, "I'm the biological. Am I not the biological daughter?" Qin Ma said impatiently, "It was meant for you, but you didn't drink it a few days ago. Who's to blame? If you want to drink it, wait until tomorrow. There's no more chicken at home. This is for A's. He's too tired from work. Look at him, he's lost a lot of weight." Qin Bao Bao said lightly, "He deserves it." Qin Ma knocked her on the head and said unhappily, "He's not working so hard to earn money. Without him, would you be so comfortable? You're fattening at home all day." Her mother obviously misunderstood. Qin Bao Bao couldn't explain and said angrily, "I won't drink it. I won't drink it even if I die, okay? Don't mention him in front of me. It's so annoying." Pitter-patter. She took off her boots and walked away, swaying her hips. Qin Ma shouted from behind, "Go get A's to drink the soup." Qin Ziyi was a light sleeper. It was hard for him to fall into a deep sleep when he was in low spirits. He vaguely sensed that someone opened the door to the room. She walked to the bedside and stood for a while. Then, she reached out her cold hand and gently touched his face. It was his sister. Qin Ziyi woke up immediately and opened his eyes. "Sister." As soon as the word left his mouth, his sister was obviously shocked. Her hand that was touching his face trembled. Then, with an extremely fast hand speed, she stopped shaking back and changed her touch into a series of consecutive moves. "Pa." A loud slap sounded. "Get up and drink the soup." Qin Bao Bao said coldly and walked out of the room. Qin Ziyi covered his face. His sister had never slapped him in the face before. Chapter 704. Qin Ziyi rubbed his face and looked at the mirror on the wardrobe. Although his sister did not hit him lightly, it was not too hard either. There was no slap mark. Otherwise, it would be hard for him to answer if his mother noticed it and asked him about it. In the kitchen, Qin Ma was scooping soup. Her sister looked at her eagerly and said coquettishly, "Mom, I don't want the soup. I want the chicken." Before Qin Ma could say anything, Qin Ziyi walked into the kitchen and said happily, "It smells so good. Mom's cooking is getting better. Give this bowl to Sis first. I only need a little." The chicken soup was boiled in a small clay pot. Excluding the chicken, ingredients, and herbs, there were at most 2 bowls of chicken soup. With a man's appetite, drinking 2 bowls of chicken soup would be child's play. So, Qin Ma did not include her daughter's share. Qin Bao Bao immediately pulled a long face when she heard this. "Who wants to drink it? I'll wait for Mom to cook it for me." Qin Ma was stunned. "Weren't you drooling just now? It's best if you don't drink it. Son, you drink it. It's all yours." After being a little princess for so many days, she was suddenly embarrassed by her mother in front of her younger brother. Qin Bao Bao bit her lip and said angrily, "I don't have a mother like you. I won't eat noodles either." She then ran to the living room. Qin Ma was confused. "What's wrong?" "Qin Ziyi. Maybe Aunt Flo is here." "Qin Ma, your sister's period is not right." Qin Ziyi carried 2 bowls of chicken soup to the living room. His sister and Grandpa Shun were sitting together in the living room watching TV. He placed a bowl of chicken soup in front of her and said ingratiatingly, "Sister, have some chicken soup." Qin Bao Bao was expressionless as she watched TV. Grandpa Shun glanced at her. "Ace is talking to you. Qin Bao Bao said coldly, no. Since she didn't drink it, Qin Ziyi would drink it himself. The soup was very rich. The fragrance of the herbs and spices didn't overwhelm the taste of the chicken soup. After more than an hour of simmering, they blended together harmoniously. Goji berries were top-notch goji berries. They were plump and full. After swallowing them, one would chew them and feel sweet. The living room was filled with an alluring fragrance. Qin Bao Bao had always been a coward, especially when she was hungry. She secretly swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva and pushed the blame to Qin Ziyi. I already said that I don't want to eat, but you still brought it over. You're so annoying. With a look of disdain, he pretended to be in a difficult position as he picked up the bowl. Seeing this, the old man took the bowl and said, it's okay. If you don't want to drink, then don't drink. Dad will help you drink. Your mother's cooking is amazing. Qin Bao Bao, seeing the two bulging veins on his sister's smooth forehead, Qin Ziyi's mouth twitched. He thought to himself, Dad, it's fine if you don't help me, but you're hitting me when I'm down. You're the same as the system. He wanted to wait until his sister was full and in a better mood before saying a few sweet words to see if it could ease their relationship. But now, there was no hope. At least, there was no hope for today. It was cold. Fortunately, Qin Ma's cooking skills were not bad. The soup was fragrant, with diced meat and shredded carrot. A poached egg was placed on top, and oil was sprinkled on both sides. Qin Bao Bao pounced on the coffee table and wolfed down the food. It was delicious. After Qin Ma finished cooking the noodles, she cut a plate of fruit and brought it over. The best thing about having a full-time mother was that there was no need to worry about not having food on the coffee table in the living room. There was also no need to worry about not having someone to wash the clothes or dry the blankets. Qin Bao Bao was halfway through her meal when she stopped and took out a tissue to wipe her mouth. Mom, do you have a suitable blind date? Qin Ziyi's eyebrows twitched violently. Qin Ma and the old master looked at each other, thinking that their daughter had indeed fallen out of love. There's no need to be so anxious. Qin Ma said. She had just fallen out of love. Although she had always thought that her daughter would become an old leftover woman in 2 years' time if she didn't get married, Qin Ma hoped that her daughter would think carefully and face her feelings seriously instead of having such a casual attitude. That's funny. You've always been the most anxious, and now you're not anxious. Are you making fun of me? Qin Bao Bao said unhappily, I'm anxious. After the new year, I'll be 27. If I don't get married, am I going to be an old maid? If I have a boyfriend now, I'm confident that I can get married before 30. Qin Ziyi said in a low voice, there's no need to rush. You're only 25. It's still early. Qin Bao Bao said lightly, sister wants to get married. Is that bothering you? Qin Ziyi was speechless. I'm full. Qin Bao Bao stood up and said, Mom, keep an eye on him. He doesn't need to be rich. He just needs to be a good person. Don't be a half-hearted jerk. I have no taste. I'm blind. I'll have to trouble you to keep an eye on him. I'll go talk to her. She's not in a good mood. Qin Ziyi found an excuse and followed her. After their son and daughter left, the old couple had fewer scruples when talking. Qin Ma said worriedly, she's really fallen out of love. It seems that she was dumped. The old master's face fell and he said angrily, didn't Ace say that he's very powerful in the entertainment industry? How could he just watch her get bullied? I'll ask him about it some other day. Bao Bao likes to get into a dead end. Why don't you help her find a blind date? Distract her. Qin Ma rolled her eyes at her husband and said, are you stupid? You like to get into a dead end. That's why you need to slow down. I'm afraid that she'll have a playful attitude. Qin Ziyi turned the doorknob before his sister locked the door. She tried hard to stop him from coming in. But how could a maggot Bao Bao compete with him? He pushed the door open easily. In the room, the siblings looked at each other silently. Qin Ziyi whispered, what nonsense are you talking about? What blind date? Mom will take it seriously. Qin Bao Bao said coldly, I'm not joking. Okay. You're not joking. I'm the one who doesn't want you to go on a blind date. Qin Ziyi said, if you go on a blind date, what should I do? You. Qin Bao Bao sneered, go and find your sister Ziwei. I was so angry that I went back to the capital. This week must be very hard. Mom said that you've lost a lot of weight. If you miss her, go and find her. I didn't stop you. Good sister, don't be angry. It's my fault. Qin Ziyi took her hand and hugged her sister's small waist. Slap. Unexpectedly, Qin Bao Bao slapped him away. She looked agitated and said in a sharp voice, Qin Ziyi, do you think that I can't live without you? Her reaction was very big. She glared at Qin Ziyi fiercely. Her eyes suddenly turned red with a trace of hysteria after being wronged to the extreme. She was not afraid of being heard by her parents. Qin Ziyi was stunned. He had never seen his sister like this. He was a little at a loss. In the silence, Qin Bao Bao's eyes slipped down 2 lines of tears. She quickly wiped them with the back of her hand and looked miserable. Wang Zijin is right. I'm used to being selfish. I've been selfish since I was a child. What I want and what I like are all based on my heart. I don't care about other people's feelings. I've never thought about what Mom would do, and I've never considered your feelings. I don't want you to find a girlfriend. I don't want to pester you and restrict you. If I had a little conscience, I wouldn't be so capricious. I shouldn't have stuck to you. It's the same with being a star. Because of vanity, I ignored Mom, Dad, and you and became a star. I didn't expect that I would come to this position today. Do you know how much I regret my debut? I regret it so much that my intestines are turning green. It was I who pushed us into the abyss step by step. Step by step, we walked on this road of no return. There's no room to turn back. But there's no medicine for regret in this world, and time can't be turned back. These days, I've been thinking about what I should do. Can't I stop being a star? Can't I go abroad? But these methods are useless. I also wonder if this relationship was destined to be wrong from the beginning. Its existence will only hurt me and the people around me. This is all my fault. I admit it. Aze, let me go. I'm so tired. Qin Bao Bao looked at him and cried. I've never restrained you. You're the one who refused to let go of yourself. I understand this feeling. Qin Ziyi reached out his hand to wipe away the tears on her face. Qin Bao Bao took a step back like a frightened deer. His hand paused in mid-air as he said bitterly, there was a child who liked his sister since he was young. He knew that he wasn't related to his sister by blood from the start. The child naively thought that his sister was the one he had picked up from the streets. Even though she was doted on by her parents and relatives, he still had to take care of her because she was picked up from the streets. He really fell in love with his sister when he was in junior high school. From the moment he realized that he had fallen in love with her, he was obsessed with her. She was so beautiful and so outstanding. She had all the conditions that a child yearned for. Fortunately, that sister also loved him. Although she wasn't very brave, she could pounce on him like crazy when he was bitten by a dog. She hated fighting, but as long as anyone bullied her brother, she would immediately get back at them. She would never stay until after school. She didn't look for a boyfriend from university until now. She didn't flirt with any men. After graduating from university, her monthly salary wasn't enough for her to spend. But she always remembered to give her brother living expenses and leave him money for 4 sets of clothes a season. The boy loved his sister very much, but he didn't dare to say it. The happiest thing was when his sister acted coquettishly and rewarded him with a kiss. He was happy even if she scolded him as a pervert or a black-hearted maggot. The thing he looked forward to the most was when his sister came to school to look for him. Because then he could pretend to be his sister's boyfriend and not her brother. In fact, after his brother became successful, he wanted to tell his parents. He couldn't let go of the unforgettable love that was engraved in his heart. That was his youth. But later, he finally found out that the child who was picked up was himself. He was a child who was looked down upon even before he was born. His mother got pregnant out of wedlock, and there was still no news of his father. The townspeople even used the most malicious guesses to speculate about his mother's pregnancy. According to the original trajectory of his life, he should have lived in a small town in the countryside. He should have been looked down upon by his stepfather and lived a mediocre life like him. No, Maybe he didn't even have that. Because compared to the child, his mother loved her brother more. Her lifelong wish was to support her brother through university and change his fate. In order to change his fate, she sacrificed her entire life. She wasn't stingy about sacrificing another child. It was his mother who adopted him. She took him out of Shujia town and suffered for 24 years. She gave him a complete family, gave him the best education, and raised him as her own son. When he was very young, he would touch his mother's earlobe when he slept. When he was sleepy, his mother would put down everything to accompany him until he fell asleep. In the third year of junior high and senior high, she was afraid that the school food wasn't nutritious enough. Every day, she would prepare the food in advance at noon and take the bus for an hour to deliver it to her son. My mother might have done something wrong back then. She told a big lie and deceived her husband for 20 whole years. Maybe it was because she felt guilty, or maybe it was because she was unwilling to accept it. Maybe it was because she was seeking comfort in her heart. No matter what she thought back then, I only know that without her, I wouldn't be who I am now. You know our father's character. Even if I had 1,000 reasons, I shouldn't have treated her like that. So, Qin Ziyi lowered his head and said softly, "I'm sorry, I might not marry you." Qin Bao Bao covered her mouth tightly. Chapter 705. Qin Bao Bao knew that her brother was not her biological brother when she was in elementary school. She started to like him when she was in the 5th grade of elementary school. When she was in the 2nd grade of middle school, she understood her feelings and confirmed her love for him. She followed this love through junior high school, through high school, and until now. From the time she knew what love was until she was 26 years old, a whole 13 years had passed. As she said, that was her life. She liked him for so many years and waited for so many years, but all she got was an "I'm sorry." Qin Ziyi personally put an end to this taboo relationship. Even if she already had the answer in her heart, Qin Bao Bao still had expectations for her brother. She had no way to break the deadlock, because this was a dead end. But she hoped that her brother could be reckless and strong, like the great sage, heaven's equal, sweeping away all obstacles. But she forgot that the great sage, heaven's equal, was also scared and compromised in the end. Won't marry me. Won't marry me. If love had a color, it must be blood red, which was the color in her heart now. In an instant, sadness flowed like a river. Qin Bao Bao opened her mouth and burst into tears. Her tears were like a flood breaking the dam. At this time, Qin Ziyi was taking out a cigarette from his pocket. He took a puff to calm down first, and then continued to talk with his sister. On the spot, his little hand trembled and the cigarette fell to the ground. "Don't cry." As soon as the voice fell, the sound of trotting came from the corridor outside the door, and then the door was pushed open. This old house with a history of more than 20 years was not as good as that of the rich residential area like Royal View Mansion. His sister cried so loudly that it could be heard in the living room. Speaking of which, when Qin Ziyi was very young, he could vaguely hear the sound of the rocking bed in his parents' room next door. He even asked his sister, "What's that sound?" The first to come in was Qin Ma. Seeing her daughter standing by the bed, crying heart-wrenchingly, without wiping her tears, she was suddenly frightened. Her baby daughter was the pearl of the palm since she was a child. She was afraid that she would melt in her mouth. Her mother passed it to her father, and after her father, her brother still had to hold it. The whole family was tight. She had only fought twice in her life, so her daughter had always been a happy little princess. When had he ever felt so heartbroken? The second one to come in was Grandpa Sheng. He came in a few seconds later, but his reaction was bigger than Qin Ma's. His old face instantly darkened. "What's going on?" Qin Bao Bao didn't care. She just cried, tears streaming down her face. Qin Ziyi's body stiffened. His sister's mentality had collapsed, but his desire to live was still there. At this moment, he did not have the time to comfort his sister. He continued, "Dad, Mom, I'm comforting my sister. After all, she has fallen out of love. Don't worry about it. Just cry it out and vent it out." Qin Bao Bao cried, "He doesn't want me anymore." Qin Ma asked, "Who? Who is it?" Just as they had expected, their daughter had fallen out of love. After so many days, They thought that she had recovered, but they did not expect that she had been holding it in. Which bastard bullied you? Ace, tell me. Grandpa Shung's face was so ugly that he wanted to kill someone. His desire to live exploded at this moment. Qin Ziyi said loudly, Dad, Mom, you guys go out first. Why are you guys crowding around? How can my sister endure this? I'll tell you guys later. I was just having a heart-to-heart talk with her when you guys came in. What are you doing here? He glanced at his sister and saw her lips moving. He was so scared that his anus tightened. Sister, even if others don't love you, I'll love you forever. When Qin Bao Bao heard this, she swallowed back the words that she was about to blurt out. I'll tell you guys later, I'll tell you later. Qin Ziyi pushed his parents to the door and closed it while his parents frowned. With his back against the door, he could hear his heart beating wildly from the 100-meter dash. His back was covered in a layer of cold sweat, and his anus was slowly coming out of its tight state. He gestured for his sister to keep quiet and blinked fiercely. Qin Bao Bao looked at him with tears in her eyes and continued to throw a tantrum. Why don't you want me anymore? Before she finished speaking, he roared, that damned dog, I'll make him pay the price later. I, Qin Ziyi, have 100 ways to make him unable to stay in the entertainment industry. He'll never be able to make a comeback. Qin Bao Bao was shocked and stopped crying. Don't worry, I won't let him have it easy. Sister, don't cry, I beg you. It was another round of quick-witted answers. During the conversation, Qin Ziyi had already rushed in front of his sister and covered her mouth. Dad, Mom, and Dad are listening at the door. Do you want to die with me? Qin Bao Bao stared at him with red eyes and nodded seriously. Her voice came through his hand. I'll tear your waist apart. Qin Ziyi said, I haven't finished speaking. He lowered his eyes and said softly, Sister, I won't marry you. I don't want to continue to coax you with sweet words. No matter how much you like it, no matter how happy you are, you still don't feel safe. A man who knows how to sweet talk can bring happiness to a woman, but he can never give her a sense of security. It's the biggest regret of my life that I can't marry you, but I'll protect you for the rest of my life. I'll love you like a husband loves his wife. I'm not afraid to make the whole world my enemy, but I can't make Mom my enemy. Please, don't make a fuss, okay? Qin Bao Bao looked at him deeply. After a moment, she pushed him away and sat on the edge of the bed. She turned to her side and sobbed softly. This was the habit after crying. At this moment, she was no longer as disheartened as before, but she couldn't stop crying immediately. It was hard to describe her feelings at this moment. Great sadness and great joy intertwined. She felt happy and sad at the same time. There were so many things she wanted to ask. For example, what about Wang Zijin? She didn't want to settle the score between you and her. She also wanted to know what to do in the future. She couldn't be single forever, and so on. However, she also knew that her parents were definitely eavesdropping outside the door. Maggot Bao Bao, who had calmed down a little, lost the courage and decisiveness she had just now. She began to panic. Qin Ziyi walked over and gently pulled his sister into his arms. The latter twisted her body symbolically. If you don't want it, then don't. Who cares? I'm not crying because of this. It's not like I can't find a man, she added while sobbing. Yes, you're right. There are plenty of fish in the sea. We don't need one more. After saying that loudly, she paused and said softly with a sad face, Sister, Dad, and Mom are listening at the door. Please don't say any more. We can still be saved. We won't die together. Qin Bao Bao's chest heaved up and down. She sobbed and didn't say anything else. Qin Ziyi hummed fairy tale in her ear. His voice was so low that only Qin Bao could hear it clearly. About 10 minutes later, Qin Ma and Grandpa Shen, who had been eavesdropping outside the door for a long time, looked at each other in confusion and whispered, She's not crying anymore? She's not making any sound. Ace's voice is very soft. What is he mumbling about? I can't hear clearly. But it's fine as long as my daughter doesn't cry. My heart aches so much. What's this? He's always making things difficult for me. Sigh. Don't worry. Ace will teach that guy a lesson. Fortunately, my son is good. Otherwise, He'd be bullied to death by others. Why are you still so proud of this at a time like this? Ask him what's going on tomorrow and tell me later. By the way, tell him to keep this a secret. Otherwise, I'll be annoyed to death by the students in class. The voice disappeared and the person left. Qin Ziyi and Qin Bao Bao both breathed a sigh of relief. Sister silently pushed Qin Ziyi away and turned her back to him. Where's Wang Zijin? Qin Ziyi, she went back. Sister turned her head and said coldly, did they break up? Qin Ziyi was silent. Qin Bao Bao kicked him in the waist and said with a straight face, get out. I'm going to sleep. Qin Ziyi stood by the bed for a moment, sighed, and quietly opened the door and went out. Qin Bao Bao lay on the bed, not sleepy at all. She thought about a lot of things about the future. It was easy to hide it now, but difficult to hide it forever. She would have to have children in the future. Or should she just have one? Then she would lie to her parents and say that she met a scumbag and left the orphan and the widow behind. It was always like this on TV, and there were many examples in real life. At most, it would make her parents worry for a while. But what about A's? It was impossible for him not to marry for the rest of his life. Grandpa Shun, who valued his family more than anything, would explode on the spot. Also, sister and brother were not married, and they were still living together. Even a fool could see that something was wrong. Or should Wang Zijin take advantage of him? Bah, don't even think about it. If I don't marry, A's and I will be exposed one day, and it will be over between us. Thinking of this, a chill from the bottom of her heart shrouded her. Qin Bao Bao slowly shivered. How was she doing in Beijing? Stubborn people like her must be wiping tears every day. She must have lost a lot of weight. Our friendship was over. That night, Qin Bao Bao didn't sleep at all. At 10 o'clock in the evening, a white Audi R8 stopped at the entrance of Yutai building. Two men in black suits got out of the car. They went straight past the ordinary elevators and went inside, where there was a VIP elevator. The elevator door opened, and the attendant in black stood in the elevator respectfully and smiled at them. Please show your membership card. The man with the oily hair took out his membership card. The attendant swiped it on the elevator sensor and handed it back with a smile. The elevator took them upstairs. This elevator could only take people up to the 19th floor. The other floors couldn't light up. Guests came here and took out their membership cards. After the attendant confirmed it, they were taken upstairs. Old Shu, 300,000 yuan is a beginner membership, 500,000 is an intermediate membership, and 1 million is a senior membership. There are a lot of benefits for membership. For example, the dealer and the attendant girl can choose from an intermediate membership card. They don't need to pay. But these are all insignificant benefits. The real top gambling tables can only be played by senior members, the middle-aged man with the oily hair said. This guy's surname was Chen, and he was a small boss in real estate development. He and a group of peers divided the small profits that leaked out from the big developers' mouths. Of course, in an industry like real estate, even if there was a little profit, it was enough for ordinary people to easily reach the peak of life. Xu Guang nodded and said, let's talk about it later. If my nephew made this kind of membership card for me, he would be angry. Boss Chen, I'll have to trouble you to take me upstairs next time. When he said my nephew, Xu Guang couldn't help but puff out his chest and raise his head. No problem, I'll be there anytime. Boss Chen patted his chest and smiled sincerely and modestly. Xu Guang hadn't known him for long, and it was a friend who introduced him. The two of them were gambling friends. Xu Guang had been wandering outside for many years, and Shanghai was no longer the same as before. P.S. Germany actually lost. It must be fake. Trash, trash, how can they live up to the previous champion? From now on, I'll be black for life. Bah, give me back my royalties. Chapter 706. Throughout history, there were two industries in the world that had spanned thousands of years and remained standing. One was the casino, and the other was healthcare. For the past few years, Shanghai had been cracking down on these two industries every year. In the past few years, the crackdown was the heaviest. There were very few professional clubs left, and the few that were still standing were not places that ordinary people could afford to enter. Only a big shot like Huang Yizong had the ability and the means to go in and save the young ladies. The other closed clubs had lost their territory and were generally relying on the hotels to survive. Keep quiet, I won't tell the average person. The casino was the same. Its stronghold was even more secretive. Some were in private villas, while others were in hotel buildings. Those who had connections and were confident. But ordinary people could never find the door in their lifetime. Xu Guang had been down for many years. Without an acquaintance to lead the way, he could not find such a place. To reach the 19th floor, he had to pass through the front desk. After bypassing the front desk, countless gamblers were excited and wanted to settle down here. Entering the hall, the smell of smoke mixed with alcohol and perfume assailed his nostrils. The hall was connected by a few rooms. Different games were divided into different areas. Sensual and tall waitresses shuttled between the tables with drinks in their hands. There were also blonde foreign beauties. For Xu Guang, who had seen Macau's casino with no end in sight, the scale of this place was relatively ordinary. But after all, the mainland was not Macau. There were not many people, but each of them was definitely worth a lot of money. And the scene in front of him was not the entire casino. There were also some VIP rooms that ordinary guests could not enter. Xu Guang had heard that it was common to lose or win millions in a day in a game there. This was Xu Guang's third time here. He sat at the baccarat table with ease. Boss Chen sat down with him. I'll play a few rounds with you today. You're not afraid of losing money, right, old Xu? Xu Guang curled his lips. The most popular games in the casino were baccarat and blackjack. Xu Guang either played baccarat or blackjack. He did not touch the others. There were wins and losses. After a few times, he did not enjoy the thrill of getting rich overnight or enduring the pain of losing money. He just wanted to satisfy his cravings. People of the previous generation were more or less addicted to gambling, whether in the city or in the countryside. The way to play baccarat was very simple. The dealer dealt the cards. Everyone had 3 cards in their hand. There were places where 2 or 5 cards were played. The flower cards and tens were counted as 0. Finally, whoever had the most penalty points in their hand added up to 9 would win. Xu Guang's luck was especially good today. Half an hour into the game, he won 200,000 yuan. When he won 500,000, old Chen scolded him in a low voice, "Old Xu, did you find a master to consecrate you? Why are you so lucky?" There were 9 people at the small table, and each of them had their wins and losses. Xu Guang had won the most so far. "Old Xu, let's change to Texas and have some fun." After losing more than 100,000 yuan, Boss Chen said, "You're lucky today. It's more exciting to play that game. I'm done warming up. If you want to stay here, we can continue." According to the saying among gamblers, when one's luck is good, one must not get up and change seats. Otherwise, the feng shui will be gone. However, Xu Guang thought for a moment. This was a small table, so it was indeed not a big deal. He nodded and stood up with Boss Chen. There were not as many people playing Texas Hold'em as baccarat, but it was a big deal. It looked more glamorous. They smoked cigars, drank champagne, and had beautiful female companions beside them. The table was not full. Xu Guang and Boss Chen waited for the first round to end before sitting down. The dealer dealt the cards. Everyone had 2 face cards, and then the dealer dealt 3 face cards. Everyone at the table put in their chips one by one, either hating or discarding. In the first round, everyone chose to follow. The dealer flipped the 4th card. TSK, bad luck. Boss Chen gave up his face card in anger. The 4th card was an ace. There were 2 aces in Xu Guang's card, which meant that he had 3 of a kind. Xu Guang calmly followed. When the 5th face card was dealt, he did some calculations. First of all, excluding the flush and straight, he had a high chance of winning with 3 of a kind. 100,000 yuan. Xu Guang pushed out a pile of chips. Among the remaining 3 people, one of them gave up, and the other 2 followed. 100,000 yuan. Xu Guang pushed out his chips again. Another person gave up. 200,000 yuan, open, Xu Guang said. Xu Guang's 3 aces won against his opponent's 3 nines. "Boss, you don't look familiar. Did you just come here?" The man who lost the money smiled faintly, as if a few 100,000 yuan was not worth mentioning at all. "I used to play in other places, so I rarely come here." Xu Guang bit on a cigar and said with an arrogant manner of "I'm a big boss." Of course, he couldn't say that he was a newcomer. Now that he was a big boss, he waved goodbye to the loser of the past. That dark history was also hidden in the deepest part of his heart. Acting cool was a necessary quality for a boss. It was the same for cigars. Xu Guang didn't know how to smoke cigars at all, so he just held it in his mouth without lighting it. This thing was simply not for people to smoke. He once tried to smoke a whole cigar like smoking, but then he got drunk and vomited for a long time. Boss Chen flattered, "Boss Xu is Qin Zed's uncle." Everyone at the table looked at Xu Guang in a different way. They were surprised and a friendly smile appeared on their faces. Xu Guang's posture with the cigar in his mouth was even more arrogant. When fortune came, it couldn't be stopped. Xu Guang's luck today was like the water of the Yellow River, flowing endlessly. In 2 hours, the chips beside him were piled up like a mountain, at least 2 million yuan. In this round, Xu Guang and the man were left to compete. Their cards were 2 8s, a 7, and the rest were jacks and aces. The 2 cards under Xu Guang's hand were 8 and 7. He was a calabash for this round. The middle-aged man looked at Xu Guang and smiled, "I don't believe you can keep winning, all in." He pushed out all the chips in front of him. Xu Guang frowned. Looking at the cards, he was almost certain to win, unless the opponent had a straight flush. The odds were like dog **t luck. At this time, Boss Chen whispered in his ear, "His surname is Zhong, and he has several finance companies under his name. He's a rich man, so he knows about naked loans." Xu Guang had an unresolvable resentment towards those who lent him money. Back then, he was almost drowned in the Huangpu River. He was already in a gunny sack when a fishing boat took him to a remote area. If it wasn't for his last pleading and finally agreeing to give him half a month to raise money, he would have been a skeleton under the Huangpu River. That year, his son had just learned to walk, his daughter was in elementary school, and Qin Ziyi was in the first year of junior high school, which was about 10 years ago. Xu Guang owed a lot of money, and that group of people was the worst to provoke. When he borrowed money, someone warned him that this group of people liked to drown people in the Huangpu River, and it wasn't a bluff. There was an example. They never hit people, nor did they threaten to push you off the rooftop. They liked to pack up the old people who owed money and throw them into the Huangpu River. When the person died, the debt would be cleared. The other party had a very deep background, and there was no other way. His sister could only sell her house to help him pay off the debt. After that, Xu Guang ran away because he still had other loan sharks to pay off. Xu Guang laughed coldly. He was trying to scare him. He was trying to put on a confident front to scare him. Rich people had this kind of confidence because a few $1 million was really nothing to them. Hence, their imposing manner was very good at scaring the poor and short-sighted country bumpkins. In fact, it didn't matter if they lost. They enjoyed the pleasure of gambling at the gambling table. Xu Guang thought to himself, "I'm not the same person anymore. All in." He expressionlessly pushed out the chips in front of him. Both of them flipped over their hidden cards. The dealer took a look and said, "Straight flush, guest number 4 wins." He used a small stick to push the chips to Boss Zhong's side. "Admit it, admit it." Boss Zhong looked at Xu Guang with a contemptuous smile. Xu Guang's eyes widened as he stared blankly at the other party's cards. Dog **t luck really happened. Just like that, he lost all the money he won previously. He came from the gambling table and returned to the gambling table. Boss Zhong lit a cigarette and didn't even look at the chips in front of him. It was as if a few million was nothing to him. He chuckled and said, "Yo, Boss Xu is out of money. Why don't you give up your seat and let the friend next to you play?" His arrogant tone made Xu Guang very uncomfortable. His face was ashen as he exchanged for more chips and continued to play. When fortune came, one couldn't stop it. But when it left, one couldn't stop it either. Xu Guang's fortune was like a woman's period. It was bleeding. In the next half an hour, he lost 5 million. Including the money he won previously, it was close to 7 million. Of course, Xu Guang didn't have that much money. Although Qin Ziyi was very good to his uncle, Dongfeng Technology had started to make a profit. It hadn't even been a month. Xu Guang didn't even have 5 million when he sold his kidney. But it didn't matter. The casino had always been generous to customers with good reputation. Xu Guang didn't have money now, but he would have a lot of money in the future. Because his nephew was Qin Ziyi, he was the nominal leader of Dongfeng Technology. Boss Xu, I'm all in. The man surnamed Zhong once again pushed out all his chips and looked at Xu Guang with a smile. The look in his eyes was very annoying, and it was filled with arrogance and condescension. This time, Xu Guang, who had a straight flush in his hand, didn't dare to call. His forehead was sweating. At the gambling table, everyone looked at Xu Guang. Xu Guang was silent. His straight flush was basically a sure win. However, in the past few rounds, his cards weren't small either. He had a gourd and a straight. Every time he felt that he had a sure win, the man surnamed Zhong would always be able to kill him. Xu Guang's mentality collapsed. Even if he had a straight flush in his hand, he didn't dare to go all in again. Boss Chen muttered, with this name card on the table, whoever wants a straight flush will win. Xu Guang had a straight flush, but the words of his companion, Old Chen, struck him like a bolt of lightning. Thinking back, he had been poisoned by Old Chen several times. I had such good cards before, but I was suppressed by him every time. This was the first time I met this Zhong guy, but he seemed to be intentionally or unintentionally targeting me. A loner, although Xu Guang was pompous and unreliable, and he didn't accomplish anything in the first half of his life and only caused trouble for his family, he had been in the underworld for more than 10 years and had dealt with all kinds of people. This experience was real. He quickly came to the conclusion that he had been tricked. Was this the casino's trick? Did they think he was a fat sheep? Chapter 707. In the next second, Xu Guang denied this idea. Everyone knew how casinos worked. 9 out of 10 gamblers would lose. If they really let you win so easily, how could they run their business? But why were there still so many people who liked to gamble and never got tired of it? Because casinos did have many examples of people getting rich overnight. Not everyone would lose. Casinos won because of the general trend. They wouldn't catch a fat sheep and kill it. To make an inappropriate analogy, all shareholders knew the dirty tricks of the stock market. Big fish ate small fish ate shrimps, and shrimps ate individual investors. Yes, individual investors were even worse than shrimps. But there were still people who were keen on trading because it was indeed very profitable. Big fish, small fish, and shrimps wouldn't catch an individual investor and kill it. Xu Guang was an experienced driver who had been to Macau. He could tell the difference between casinos and individual investors. And his current situation was that he was being killed. If Xu Guang was smarter, he would remember that Boss Chen had specially introduced him to Mr. Zhong. The fact that he had an irreconcilable feud with the lenders had long been known. The man surnamed Zhong stared at him and said in a slightly provocative tone, "Boss Xu, are you hesitating over a small amount of money?" Xu Guang decisively folded his cards and became a coward in a second. I'm scared. Boss Zhong is the god of gamblers. Amazing. The man surnamed Zhong was taken aback. He seemed to be at a loss and a little surprised. This person was still acting like he could take on 10 people at once, but in the blink of an eye, he admitted defeat. The switch between Zhen Bullet and Lu Meizi was so fast and perfect. This shrewdness wasn't simple. But it didn't matter. People who lost red eyes couldn't stop. He would definitely eat up Xu Guang tonight. After the dealer pushed the chips in front of him, he motioned for the dealer to deal. Xu Guang sighed. "I'm not playing anymore. I'm not lucky today. I'll play another day." As he spoke, he stuffed 1,000 chips into his female companion's chest. Then, under Boss Zhong's astonished gaze, he got up and left. The woman took out her chips, and her beautiful face was filled with disappointment. Girls who could be female companions were all high-quality beauties. Originally, according to Xu Guang's luck, she could get at least 10,000 chips in the end. Of course, she would have to be injected afterwards. The bosses were not stupid. On the contrary, Those who could become big bosses were all shrewd. Well, except for the coal boss. Old Chen caught up and asked, "Why aren't you playing anymore?" Xu Guang chuckled and said, "Didn't you see that guy's luck is even better than mine? If we continue to play, we'll just be giving money away." Old Chen asked tentatively, "What about something else?" Xu Guang shook his head and patted him on the shoulder. "Another day." "Oh right, do you still want to play?" Elder Chen shook his head. "I lost a lot too." "Forget it, let's go together." The two of them went downstairs and parted ways. As Xu Guang drove into the traffic, he saw Old Chen standing beside the car and taking out his phone from the rearview mirror. Spitting out a mouthful of saliva, Xu Guang fiercely said, "What a useless son. How dare he set a trap for me?" After losing all his savings and owing the casino more than 1 million, Xu Guang thought for a moment and carefully dialed Qin Zedi's number. "Ace, I have something to tell you. If you have something to say, then say it." Qin Zedi's tone was not very pleasant. His sister had moved back to Royal View Grand Park, but she didn't like to talk to him, let alone reward him with a kiss. Qin Zi felt like a husband who took his wife back from her mother's home after having an affair, and continued the Cold War. To put it bluntly, the knot in his heart had not been untied. His sister was such a possessive person, how could she accept the fact that her brother was raped by her best friend? "Get out of my way, you defiled man." His sister often scolded him like this these days. But just like those wives who finally chose to go home with their husbands, whether because of love or family, they still wanted to continue their life. Xu Guang hesitated and said, "Ace, I have to apologize first. I went gambling again. And then I was cheated. Not only did I lose all my savings, but I also owe more than 1 million. Xu Guang finished, waiting for Qin Zedi's scolding. At the other end of the phone, Qin Zi muttered, "A wolf travels thousands of miles to eat meat, while a dog travels thousands of miles to eat shit." Huh. He didn't seem to be as angry as expected. Xu Guang immediately said, "RZE, you don't know this. Uncle was careless and got tricked by someone." He cursed as he recounted what had happened in the casino. "Fortunately, your uncle is experienced and knowledgeable. I managed to withdraw in time." Qin Zi was too lazy to listen to his nonsense. He wanted to hang up, but after listening to him, "Wait a minute," Qin Zedi's tone became serious. "How do you know that, Boss Chen?" "A friend introduced him," Xu Guang said. "Send me his information, the more detailed the better." "And that Zhong guy, do you know him?" "I don't know him, but I know his lender." "A lender?" Qin Zi pondered and said, "Give me his full name." Sister Man seemed to be in this business in the past, and it was quite big. Although she gradually withdrew from this grey industry, her contacts and knowledge should still be there, so he asked her to help check. It didn't matter if it was a coincidence or someone was deliberately targeting him, there was nothing wrong with being careful. The gaming eye patch officially began to be promoted, and the development of other areas of VR equipment began. The future was bright. At this time, his uncle fell into a trap. "Ace, I really cheated this time." Afraid that Qin Zi would take away his position in the factory, his uncle emphasized again. "Just this once," Qin Zi said, 30% of your commission will be deducted." "Anything else?" Yes, I still owe the casino more than 1 million." His uncle said. "Ask my sister, I don't have money now," Qin Zi said. "Then I'll give it a try," his uncle said and hung up. About a few minutes later, Qin Zi heard a roar from his sister's room. "Shu, if you dare to gamble again, I'll ask someone to break your legs. Choose between your legs or your money." Qin Zi nodded, satisfied. He found a punching bag for his sister to vent her anger. Suppressing one's anger was not good for one's health. While Xu Guang and Qin Zi were on the phone, Boss Chen also dialed a number. When the person on the other end picked up, Boss Chen said apologetically, "Mr. Huang, Xu Guang seems to have figured it out and didn't fall for it." "Got it." The other party's tone was calm. Boss Chen didn't dare to be careless and apologized again. "I'm sorry, I didn't complete the task you gave me. It doesn't matter whether it succeeds or not. This gambler has some brains." Huang Wei clicked his tongue. Once bitten, twice shy. He's not stupid. He had investigated Xu Guang, and he was indeed a bad person. He squandered his family's fortune and left home for years to avoid debt. If this kind of person didn't become a chicken and dog and ascend together, he wouldn't be able to make a comeback in this life. A leopard can change its spots, but a leopard can't change its spots. This kind of person is an obvious weakness for the opponent, so Huang Wei thinks it can be used. Contact him again in a few days. If he doesn't want to gamble anymore, this chess piece can be thrown away. Don't be stubborn, Huang Wei said. Got it, Boss Chen said. Huang Wei, who was in Beijing, hung up the phone and thought for a long time. He was optimistic about the future of Dongfeng technology. The most important thing was that the core technology was very important. It was different from anything before. There were also differences between the second generation of businessmen. It was nothing to rely on family connections to make money in a profitable industry. This was what most of the second generation did. There were very few who could rely on their family's resources to do something that was beneficial to the development of society and promote the progress of the industry. This kind of second generation was a promising second generation, and the elders would usually give them high praise. Huang Wei saw this point. He wasn't just doing it for money. Dongfeng technology had the potential. Originally, he had already given up on Dongfeng. When he saw Wang Zijin at the last meeting, he guessed that Qin Ziyi was the Wang family's white glove. Later, he found out that Qin Ziyi and Wang Zijin were a couple, but the Wang family didn't seem to have a good impression of this son-in-law. Recently, he heard that Wang Zijin and Qin Ziyi had broken up. Although the parties involved didn't say it explicitly, Wang Zijin suddenly returned to Beijing from Shanghai and didn't say a word about her boyfriend. She was still in low spirits. News of her breakup was well known in her circle of friends. Although the circle of the second generation in Beijing was large, as long as one paid attention, it was easy to get information. But even without the Wang family's support, it was still very difficult for him to control Qin Ziyi. Although there were many ways, there were very few that would work. For example, the second generation liked to suppress resources. He could restrict the supply of materials to Dongfeng technology as long as they were willing to spend money and cooperate with the government. Dongfeng Technology had signed cooperation agreements with many companies in the industry. He could restrict Dongfeng, but he couldn't restrict so many companies. Xu Guang was just a chess piece. It didn't matter whether it succeeded or not. But it didn't matter. He had other ways, and he couldn't delay. Although Qin Ziyi wasn't the Wang family's white glove, he had an affair with the Wang family's daughter. If they fell out now, he would have a chance. But what if they reconciled in the future? So he had to pick the fruit quickly. He wasn't afraid of the Wang family snatching it away. Chapter 708. Actually, there was no need to go through so much trouble to give his uncle the money. All he had to do was call the finance department of Dongfeng Technology and ask them to transfer the money to his uncle. Qin Ziyi just wanted to make things difficult for his uncle and spread the news so that his sister could vent her anger. After another week, the companies became busier and busier. The new year was approaching and this year's spring festival was in January. Most companies would enter a frenzied update mode in December. They would work hard to make a few more deals and have a prosperous new year. Then, they would spend the rest of the time settling various debts. Near noon, Qin Ziyi drove to Tianfang Entertainment with a lunchbox, like a husband who was busy trying to please his wife after doing something wrong. During this period, he had taken care of his sister's lunch and made one for Suyu as well. The silly woman was overjoyed. Every time Qin Ziyi delivered food to her, she would smile happily and say, "Hubby is so nice. I feel like I'm the happiest person in the world." His sister still did not give him a good look. When the food was served, she would eat a few mouthfuls and did not insist. If Qin Ziyi wanted to stay and eat with her, she would throw down her chopsticks and say, "If you don't leave, I'll leave." Qin Ziyi wondered if Su Yu, who was in the dark, would give him a cold shoulder like his sister if she knew what had happened during this period. Qin Bao Bao was not in the office. The ordinary-looking assistant said that she had gone to practice singing. At the end of December, Qin Bao Bao was going to release an album as the end of the year. Originally, she had agreed to film a New Year's movie with Qin Ziyi. Things were unpredictable and it was teary to talk about it. Qin Ziyi said, "Okay, I got it." He took the lunchbox and left. The ordinary-looking assistant hesitated for a moment and stopped him. She said timidly, "Boss Qin said that if you came to deliver the food, I should leave the food behind. You don't have to go." Qin Ziyi glanced at her expressionlessly. "You're too arrogant. Help me." The ordinary-looking assistant looked embarrassed. "I remember that your year-end bonus should be very good. It's almost the new year. If you're not careful, your year-end bonus might become a letter of resignation," Qin Ziyi said. The assistant knew what to do. "Boss Qin, I have something else to do, so I won't bother you. Please." Sensible. Qin Ziyi strode away. In the recording studio, Qin Bao Bao was recording a song inside. There were 2 sound engineers sitting outside. There was no one else. Qin Ziyi walked in and waited for his sister to finish her song. "It's time for dinner. Let's go out and eat." Get rid of the 2 sound engineers. "Sis, it's time to eat. I know that you don't have a good appetite recently, so I made it lighter." When she came out, Qin Ziyi politely opened the lunchbox, handed her chopsticks, pulled out a chair, and said, "I haven't eaten either. Let's eat together." Qin Bao Bao moved the food to his side and said, "Get lost. I don't want to eat with a defiled person." She tucked her loose chestnut curls behind her ears to prevent them from falling into the food, revealing a sharp oval face. She snorted and lowered her head to eat. He could understand his sister's feelings. From a man's point of view, it was like raising an adorable Lolita at home. They would usually kiss and cuddle her, waiting to raise her into an adult. Yet, the Lolita that they had painstakingly raised ended up sleeping with another man. Qin Ziyi was the big D*ck loli. If it were a petty woman, she would remember this for the rest of her life. His heartless sister couldn't remember it for that long, but she wouldn't forget it so easily either. She was actually very anxious and in pain. "Bah, scumbag, get lost." That was how most women would deal with their cheating boyfriends. The Lolita who had been raised from a young age was definitely in pain because her best friend had slept with her. She wished she could be as arrogant as other girls. She wished she could have a female version of "Don't bully a poor young man," but she couldn't bear to do so. She couldn't bear to draw a line between her and her younger brother. When you fall deeply in love with someone, you've completely lost. Qin Bao Bao had recently come across this sentence on a relationship counseling website. To be able to say such philosophical words, the hat on the person's head must be glowing green. Qin Ziyi sighed. Even such a filthy younger brother would want to get close to his angelic and holy sister. Qin Bao Bao didn't buy it. She curled her lips in disdain. "I have a donkey, but I never ride it." The phone rang. His sister, who was eating, subconsciously reached for her pocket. Qin Ziyi did the same. This time, it was his phone that rang. A stranger was calling. Qin Ziyi didn't pick it up. He hung up. His phone rang again. It was the same number. This time, he picked it up. "Who is this?" "President Qin, it's me, Huang Wei." The person on the other end of the phone reported his name. "President Huang, what's the matter?" Qin Ziyi was stunned. "Have you considered the investment I mentioned last time?" Huang Wei's tone was gentle. "Not considering, thank you. Don't be so full of yourself." Qin Ziyi hung up immediately. He thought to himself, "Are you crazy? So what if you're the second generation? You're really something. But I can also ignore you." Half a month after the short call, it was early January. Chinese New Year was approaching. There were only 3 days left before the official holiday. Some companies were already on holiday. Many things happened during this period. First, the technical manager of Dongfeng Technology resigned and took on a huge amount of compensation. Then, a few companies that signed contracts with Dongfeng Technology announced their withdrawal. After that, pirated VR game blindfolds appeared on the market. These VR blindfolds could be connected to the game, but they couldn't be updated. Even so, it was enough. Updating a game wasn't something that could be done overnight. Developing a new game was even more so. For a long time in the future, Dongfeng Technology was going to suffer huge losses. The game blindfolds couldn't be sold anymore. Obviously, the VR core blueprints that Qin Ziyi gave to Dongfeng Technology had been stolen. The thief was the technical manager who had resigned. He was the only one who had the password and could copy the blueprints. This guy was Xu Yaro's man, but he was definitely not the mastermind. After Dongfeng Technology called the police, this guy had already fled. Qin Ziyi received another call from Huang Wei. Boss Qin, there are so many pirated copies. It's so abominable. It's seriously hurting my interests. Oh, I forgot. I haven't invested yet. Qin Ziyi said, why don't you do something illegal instead? Huang Wei said, you're hurting my feelings. I'm a person who hates pirated copies. The national situation is different now. China should start boycotting pirated copies. I can help in this regard. Qin Ziyi said, no need. Get lost. TSK, don't you feel bad about the money? Do I look like someone who lacks money? Qin Ziyi sneered. Hai Ziyi King's heart ached so much that he found it hard to breathe. As long as I survive this wave, I'll still make a lot of money. Your call proves that you know the limits of your despicable tricks. How about this? Huang Wei said, I'll take a step back. I only want 20% of the shares. Get lost. Qin Ziyi hung up. His face was gloomy. He said to Qin Bao Bao, who was sitting on the sofa, Sister, I'm going out for a while. Where are you going? I have something to ask Sister Man, Qin Ziyi explained. There's a guy who wants to mess with me. He's not an ordinary person. I'll ask Sister Man about it. Qin Bao Bao thought about it and didn't throw a tantrum. She said in a deep voice, go to hell. She knew about the core technology leak and had been paying attention to it. Qin Ziyi contacted Nan Man Pei first, then called Su Yu and made an appointment at Nan Man Pei's house to discuss countermeasures. In the villa. In Nan Man Pei's living room, Qin Ziyi and his sister sat together. Nan Man Pei and Su Yu each occupied a single sofa. Qin Ziyi looked at the laptop screen and frowned. The computer contained Huang Wei's personal information, family background, businesses under his name, the position of his father, and so on. These things were not difficult to get, but there was no more detailed information, unless he asked Wang Zijin, Sister Man, can you deal with this guy? Qin Ziyi asked. Nan Man Pei, who had been looking at Qin Ziyi and Qin Bao Bao with a strong interest in gossip, shook his head. It's not worth it. She thought about it and explained, his business in Shanghai is of course not a problem, but it's not painful for him. And you see the assets under Huang Wei's name. They have a wide range of implications. And there's no technical content. They're all semi-monopolized industries. There's almost no chance to play dirty. She didn't say that Qin Ziyi was involved in too few industries. He didn't have enough contacts in all walks of life. To put it bluntly, his power was too small. If he encountered a guy with a strong background, he could only protect himself at most. In terms of the social hierarchy, what was a star? There was no position for a star at the top of the pyramid. Even in the entertainment industry, they couldn't be ranked. Su Yu was dissatisfied and said, you go to Wang Zijin. Isn't your girlfriend the daughter of the Wang family? Let her fight. Qin Bao Bao glanced at her. They broke up. Don't you know? Broke up. Teddy Sue's face lit up instantly. Was this for real? I haven't even used my full strength yet, and Wang Zijin is already so scared that she doesn't want her man anymore. Ha ha ha, Qin Ziyi and I are indeed a match made in heaven. We are destined to be together. Pei Nanman coughed and forcefully changed the topic. Although the Wang family has deep roots and a strong background, Huang Wei's family isn't weak either. If it's not because of political differences, they won't fight easily. Your company's scale is nothing. No matter how good your future is, it's nothing in their eyes. Didn't Huang Wei do this because he wanted the two of you to break up? It's easy to solve. In fact, it's just a matter of Wang Zijin giving a call. I'd rather beat Huang Wei up than talk to Sister Ziwei. No need. Qin Ziyi shook his head. He came to find Pei Nanman to find out if there was a way to fight back. It didn't matter if it didn't work. Qin Bao Bao suddenly said, at most, we'll just lose some money. It's useless to steal the technology. It can only be limited to the game. In the future, when the version is updated, we can pair it up in advance. Set a code or something for every legitimate game device. Otherwise, it can't be connected to the game. After a pause, she said, it should be possible to operate it that way. She didn't know how to operate it. She only knew the concept. As for the use in other fields, legitimate companies won't dare to produce it. Otherwise, they'll be sued. Pirated companies don't have the ability to produce it either. Even if it's intentional, hospitals, industries, and schools won't dare to buy it. If they bought it, they'd be sued. Qin Ziyi looked at his sister in surprise. He didn't expect her to say something like that. Well, she wasn't just a flower vase. Before Salted Fish Lake evolved into Harai's king, he had always looked up to his sister. His sister was right. This was the benefit of patent protection. Why could America ban the sale of chips to China during a trade war? No matter how advanced the chips were, couldn't China copy them? Of course they could. But if you copied them, you'd be infringing. Copying chips to manufacture electronic devices was fine if it was limited to domestic use. But it couldn't be exported. This hit their weak spot. Most of China's electronic devices were exported, such as a certain mobile phone brand. Therefore, with patent protection, legitimate companies wouldn't dare to produce devices without authorization. Pirated products were very limited. They would take away a portion of the profits, but it wouldn't hurt them. This was why Qin Ziyi didn't panic. But this is also very disgusting. Suyu said, harming others without benefiting ourselves. It's not letting us make money. And we can't do anything about pirated products. What a dirty trick. Nan Man Pei glanced at Qin Ziyi and added, I'm not afraid of you taking revenge. Because you can't take revenge at all. Qin Ziyi said helplessly, if it was a few years ago, I could take revenge. Nan Man Pei was stunned. What do you mean? Qin Ziyi said, a few years ago, the market conditions allowed it. Seeing that no one understood his joke, Qin Ziyi scratched his head. It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. I'll always have a chance. I won't just stay in the entertainment industry. If anyone else said this, they would feel that they were bragging. But when he said this, the three of them felt that it was normal. The conclusion of their discussion was to swallow this loss and get through this wave. This was the answer that Nan Man Pei gave him. No one's life could be smooth sailing. Even the main character had to go through the shock of breaking off an engagement. He had to be a dog and develop wretchedly. Those successful people in politics and business had also been slapped in the face countless times. As long as they persevered, there would be a time for them to show off. Qin Ziyi was about to leave when Nan Man Pei said, Qin Bao Bao, do you have time? I want to talk to you. Qin Ziyi paused and couldn't help but look at his sister. His sister was stunned, then nodded. Then I'll go with Qin Ziyi first. Suyu said happily. Chapter 709. Turning around and closing the door, Suyu couldn't hide her excitement. She jumped on Qin Ziyi. After Qin Ziyi's hands held her plump buttocks, her legs wrapped around Qin Ziyi's waist. She whispered excitedly, really? Did we really break up? Wow, I haven't shown my killing skill yet, and she has already retreated. I didn't expect that I had bad luck all my life, and finally my luck turned. Her so-called killing skill was to run to Wang Zijin with a child. Do you see the embryo in my belly? Go back to Beijing quickly. Unfortunately, her stomach was not very good, and the killing skill had not yet taken shape. Suyu often thought that when the child was born in the future, she must beat him to vent her anger. Why are you so kind to send me lunch every day? Suyu wrinkled her nose and said proudly, you have to be good to me. I am your only girlfriend. You have to be obedient and bring me food every day. Otherwise, I'll leave you all alone. Qin Ziyi opened his mouth and chose to be silent. Suyu didn't notice and said to herself, but don't worry, as long as you are a little better to me, I will love you more. By the way, what are Sister Man and your sister talking about? Do we want to eavesdrop? Qin Ziyi was shocked. No, let's go first. He had already guessed what Nan Man Pei would say to his sister. In the living room, Nan Man Pei leaned on the sofa, crossed her legs, and looked at Qin Bao Bao with a queenly posture. Qin Bao Bao frowned and suddenly found that this woman actually had a very strong aura, which was very similar to the feeling of facing the head teacher in high school. They rarely met, and occasionally they met when Qin Ziyi was present, so she didn't have any private contact with Nan Man Pei. She didn't know much about this woman. Su Yu's best friend, her brother's friend, that's all. Beauty is a woman's capital, but the more beautiful a woman is, the easier it is to be delayed by others, because you can't tell whether those men who pursue you are interested in your beauty or your inner qualities. A woman is afraid of marrying the wrong man, this is a famous saying. This society was actually quite good to women. At least compared to men, there was a lot less pressure and burden. That's why women are more emotional while men are more rational. Half of it is due to the environment, Nan Man Pei explained. Qin Bao Bao said blankly, "What are you trying to say? Even if you're angry with Qin Ziyi and don't want to forgive him, you're more afraid of cutting off all ties with him. Love and hate, emotions are a woman's biggest weakness." Nan Man Pei said, "Therefore, no matter how angry you are with Qin Ziyi, you can't leave him." Nan Man Pei's words hit Qin Bao Bao's heart like a battering ram. She was dumbfounded. She knows about me and Qin Ziyi? Other than being dumbfounded, he also felt a little ashamed. She had no choice but to lay her cards on the table and express her feelings to Wang Zijin. But how did Nan Man Pei know? On the night you met Wang Zijin, Qin Ziyi came to find me. He was sad and disappointed like a child who didn't dare to go back to see his parents after scoring a 0. He had a lot of things in his heart and wanted to find someone to talk to, but he didn't have a suitable person. I had no choice but to play the role of a caring sister and listen to his nagging for half an hour. Nan Man Pei unconsciously raised his image. It was as if he was really Qin Zi's caring sister and not Qin Ziyi who came to pick up a drunk mistress and complain to him. Qin Bao Bao secretly gritted her teeth and felt a little embarrassed. Damn little red man, how is it respectable for an elder sister to fall in love with a younger brother? You have the nerve to compare yourself with others and even nagged for half an hour. Qin Bao Bao's face darkened. You're talking to me about this because you want to persuade me to repent. Nan Man Pei said, if I can, I really want to persuade you. If I persuade you to leave, Wang Zijin will also leave. My Su Yu will be the only winner. But she added, but after listening to his story, I chose to be silent. Because any persuasion would be useless. He said that he loves his sister deeply. She is so outstanding and so fascinating. He said that even if he is useless, his sister will still love him. I have never seen him like that, not even for Wang Zijin. So if he really has to choose, you will definitely not have a good ending. She said in her heart, of course he will choose you. But in that case, Su Yu will be a tragedy. Qin Bao Bao's face darkened. She hated it when people said this because it was the truth. Don't mention it. Big stars, public figures, if this kind of thing is exposed, you can't explain it clearly even if you have 7 or 8 mouths. Ordinary people may be able to get away with it, but you two can't. Let's talk about Qin Ziyi. His future achievements will not be limited to this. The higher he climbs, the more opponents there will be. After all, there are only so many positions at the top. If you get to the top, others will have to go down. I know this well. You may be able to hide it from the media, but there are many people who are more difficult to deal with than the media. At that time, you will be a burden to him, and even destroy him. Qin Bao Bao was silent. My ex-husband cheated on me, and I decisively chose to divorce him. I was full of anger. I left my hometown and came to Shanghai. But when my anger dissipated, I found that I didn't hate him. After thinking about it for many years, I figured it out. It turned out that I didn't love him. He was my senior brother, my father's favorite student. I had feelings for him, but it was a brother-sister relationship. So when the anger dissipated, he was more clear and profound in my heart. He was like an elder brother. So I couldn't hate him like a woman hates a man. And it was precisely because I didn't love him that I could resolutely choose to leave. Nan Man Pei said, but you can't. You love Qin Ziyi so much that you can't extricate yourself. What are you going to do? Regardless of this, you want to be with him? Qin Bao Bao was still silent. I have an idea. Qin Bao Bao finally spoke. Go ahead. Nan Man Pei smiled and said, if you want to live a good life, you have to wear a cuckold. Qin Bao Bao was speechless. You can consider finding a mistress. If you can't accept Wang Zijin, then consider Su Yu. Nan Man Pei probed. Goodbye. When Qin Bao Bao went downstairs, she did not see Su Yu. Qin Ziyi was sitting alone in the living room, waiting. Beside him were Nan Man Pei's nephews. The girl was more aloof and did not pay much attention to her. The boy was very shy. When he first arrived, he even asked for her autograph, but Qin Bao Bao ignored him. Ziki, let me ask you a question, Li Donglai said. Speak. Do you use your left or right hand to wipe your butt when you go to the toilet? Get lost. Answer me quickly. I just want to know if you're left-handed. Right hand. Haha, we both use paper. Li Donglai, you're courting death. Haha, master, am I getting better and better? Ouch, don't hit my head. Qin Bao Bao looked at the siblings in surprise. She thought to herself, are they retarded? Chapter 710. Finished talking? Qin Ziyi immediately stood up and stared at his sister nervously. He knew what Nan Man Pei wanted to talk to his sister about. He guessed that she was a little gossipy, and he wanted to help Su Yu to sound her out. Qin Ziyi was reluctant. His sister was not well stimulated now. But since Nan Man Pei helped him hide it from Su Yu, it was not good to disobey. He observed his sister's look and was careful, fearing that her mood would be hit again. Qin Bao Bao passed by him and whispered, let's go home. Qin Ziyi nodded, said goodbye to Pei Ziki and Li Donglai, and left the villa with his sister. On the way to the car, his sister suddenly said, is that your apprentice? Ah, yes. Qin Ziyi was stunned and nodded quickly. It's very interesting. Qin Bao Bao smiled slightly. Qin Ziyi was stunned again, and then ecstatic. His sister did not take the initiative to talk to him for many days. Only when there was any request or when he took the initiative to speak, she would respond indifferently. She looked like a little wife in a fit of pique. There was absolutely no way she would chat and talk to him like how she usually did. It didn't matter whether Li Donglai was interested or not. Even his sister thought that he was a fool. His sister just took the initiative to talk to him, which meant that she was willing to end the Cold War with him. It meant that she forgave him a little. A smile appeared on Qin Ziyi's face as he excitedly said, what can a little brat do? Let's not talk about him. Sister, let's go home for dinner. I'll cook for you. Driving home, Qin Ziyi made a hearty dinner and served his sister. Looking at the joy between his eyebrows, Qin Bao Bao had a complex emotion of sadness and joy. It's almost the new year. Tomorrow is a holiday. I told Mom that I will go back tomorrow. Qin Bao Bao found a topic and said, Dad said that you have to buy the New Year's goods, red envelopes, and gifts for visiting relatives until you get married. Qin Ziyi didn't understand the meaning behind his sister's words and nodded. The New Year celebration in the big cities was actually not that heavy. Visiting relatives for 2 or 3 days was enough. Almost no one outside the 5 generations would visit. Some young people even stopped visiting after 3 generations. It was far from comparable to the lively atmosphere in the countryside. At the end of the meal, they talked about a lot of common things. Sometimes they laughed, sometimes they were silent, but there was no longer the tacit understanding and harmony that they had in the beginning. Once something is exposed, it can no longer be hidden in your heart. When it is hidden, you can play and be happy as much as you want, treat it as a kind of enjoyment before it is exposed. But when it is exposed to the light of day, you have no choice but to face it head-on. At this time, you will have an additional burden on your shoulders, a responsibility. Qin Ziyi had a premonition that it would be difficult for him and his sister to return to their previous state. After the meal, Qin Bao Bao sat on the sofa and watched TV as usual. She crossed her legs and leaned against the sofa in a lazy posture. The older sister, who was wearing a white sweater and had tied her hair into a bun, looked particularly young. Her skin was fair and her eyes were clear, reflecting the light of the television. People would believe that she was a university student, but a high school student would not be so broad-minded. Qin Ziyi sat next to her. After the end of the Cold War, He felt relieved. He refreshed his circle of friends. Sister Ziwei had not moved for more than half a month. Her phone was still turned off. He guessed that her SIM card had been changed. The chat software blacklisted Qin Ziyi. When Su Yu was not paying attention, he used her mobile phone to contact Wang Zijin. There was no reply. The update content of her circle of friends also stopped on the day she left Shanghai. It seemed that they were going to break off their relationship. Damn it. While refreshing his circle of friends, Qin Ziyi suddenly burst out a curse. Qian Shusha, that short girl, posted a picture. He clicked on the picture. The background was dark. After scrolling for a long time, a beautiful Sadako suddenly jumped out. The most touching picture of the year. She added the caption like this. Many people fell into her trap. The replies were filled with scolding. There were Huang Yuting, Li Wei, Yi Liu, and many other artists under the company. Qin Ziyi was also shocked. Qin Baobao turned her head and asked, "What are you doing?" Qin Ziyi changed his mind and smiled. "I saw a very interesting picture. The most touching work of the year. Do you want to see it?" Qin Baobao leaned over and Qin Ziyi handed the phone to her. Sister did not know that she fell into a trap. She looked at it seriously and scrolled down the picture with her fingers. She screamed and threw the phone away. "Are you crazy? You're showing me this kind of thing." Qin Baobao seemed to be angry. After throwing the phone away, her face turned cold and she did not leave the living room. Qin Ziyi did not pick up the phone. He sat on the sofa with a lonely expression. She was angry, but she did not do anything. The sister in the past would definitely pounce on him and fight him. As expected, they could not go back to the past. 10:30 p.m. Qin Ziyi turned off the TV and went back to his room to rest. He stood at the door and looked back at his sister's closed door. She did not talk to him this night. During this time, she came out of her room 4 times and passed by him twice. She did not even look at him. Qin Ziyi scratched his head. He was not annoyed, but guilty. Sister was such a heartless girl, but she was forced to be like a resentful woman. It could be seen that what happened between him and Wang Zijin had a big impact on her. At 12 o'clock p.m., Qin Ziyi lay on the bed and did not fall asleep. Recently, he had not been sleeping well and he could not fall asleep easily. A while ago, the system said that his body functions were declining. Sleep was very important for humans. If you carry so much pressure every day, you will become mentally weak and impotent. Recently, the system would occasionally come back to life and jump out to nag him. Now, it was Qin Ziyi's turn to ignore it. He was very disappointed with the system. If God gave him another chance, Qin Ziyi hoped to walk the path of reincarnation. There was a soft sound of the doorknob being twisted. Someone came in. Other than him, there was only his sister in the house. Without a doubt, it was his sister who came in. Late at night. Night attack. She forgave me. Qin Ziyi felt an inexplicable excitement in his heart. Qin Baobao walked to the bed with light steps. Qin Ziyi felt the bed sink. She sat down and touched his face with her cold little hand. "Aze," Sister said. This time, he did not dare to open his eyes. He was afraid that he would be slapped by his sister again. Qin Baobao sighed faintly. "Today, Nan Man Pei told me to find a mistress. Find a mistress to marry you. That way, you can fool your parents and others. And I'm a celebrity. There are many celebrities who are still single in their 40s. It's not strange that I don't get married. Even if I have a child in the future, as long as I don't say anything, it will be an unsolved case. But this mistress must be someone I know and know about our relationship. Otherwise, a woman's intuition can't be hidden. That's why she said that Wang Zijin is the best choice. I was so angry that I wanted to hit her. I didn't argue with her because of you. Otherwise, I would have done it." Qin Ziyi continued to pretend to be asleep. He thought to himself, "Sister Man can beat 10 of you with one hand, sister. But I agree with her in my heart. Because this is the only way. I don't want to share you with others, but I'm more afraid of destroying you. I'm more afraid that we won't be together for the rest of our lives. But even if I'm willing, will Wang Zijin be? Does she love you so much that she can't extricate herself from it like I do? So Nan Man Pei said that I can still consider Su Yu. She said that Su Yu likes you and would be willing to accept you. She's ridiculous. No woman would be willing to share her husband with others unless she loves you as deeply as I do. But I don't want to give you to others. Fate made us meet, know each other, and love each other. Fate also drew an insurmountable gap between us. I'm glad that I'm your sister, but I also hate this identity. I have to bow to reality and compromise with fate. I planned to reconcile with you, but I found that there was an invisible barrier between us. You're no longer as good to me as before. You scared me with the photo at night, and I was angry. Aze, why didn't you come to coax me? I turned around in front of you twice, but you ignored me. You used to be good at coaxing me. She was silent for a moment, and then there was a soft sob. Aze, can we never go back to the past? I don't want to be like this, I don't want to be like this. Qin Ziyi was stunned. He opened his eyes in the darkness. The curtain reflected the faint light of the street lamp. He saw his sister's tear-stained face. Tears rolled down from her thick eyelashes and across her face. Other girls were at most pitiful, but she was as seductive as a fox girl. It turned out that she was just like him. Don't be silly. We can't go back to the past, he said calmly. Qin Bao Bao stopped crying and looked at him blankly. She was caught off guard. In the past, we were brother and sister. We could only be brother and sister. But now, we are not. Although we may have to experience a long, long life in the dark, I don't want to be like before. Qin Ziyi sat up and hugged his sister. I'm sorry. What? She burst into tears and cried. Qin Bao Bao hugged her brother's waist tightly. She was afraid that if she let go, her brother would no longer be hers. She kept repeating, don't be brother and sister, don't be brother and sister. She cried for a long time and sobbed for a long time. Her tears and snot were all smeared on Qin Ziyi's pajamas. This was the third time she cried since she came back from the capital. After 3 times, she finally vented all the resentment, anger, and sorrow in her heart. Qin Ziyi could only give her a hug. He hugged his sister and smelled the fragrance of shampoo in her hair. It was late at night. When her emotions calmed down, Qin Ziyi whispered something in her ear. His sister's face instantly blushed and her delicate body stiffened. Qin Ziyi was not in a hurry. He waited and gently stroked his sister's back. The relationship between the two of them was destined to make her feel insecure. Qin Ziyi whispered in her ear, "Be my bride." When he said these words, his heart was filled with tenderness, pity, and admiration, but there was no lust in it. At any time, love was always higher than desire. Qin Bao Bao's expression changed a few times. It was not that she resisted, but that she was nervous and conflicted. After a long time, she nodded vigorously. But when Qin Ziyi pressed her under his body, she went back on her words. Take a shower. I want to take a shower. Haven't I already taken a shower? Let's take another shower. You're not going back on your words, are you? Chapter 7:11. In the dim light, Qin Ziyi woke up from his dream. He had been suffering from insomnia recently and would be woken up from time to time. The system was right, he was indeed a little mentally weak. He was hugging his sister from behind. Their bodies were pressed together seamlessly. Their skin was soft and smooth, as if he was hugging a jade beauty. He could clearly feel the beautiful curve of his sister's body pressing against his lower abdomen. Qin Ziyi breathed a sigh of relief and blocked out the nightmare from his mind. In the dream, he and his sister were forced to separate due to pressure. They lived their own lives. Fortunately, the dream was the opposite. This relationship was very tiring, very tiring. The uncertainty and fear about the future had accumulated in his heart and had become something like a heart disease. It seemed that his sister was the same. And now, there was no need to be conflicted. They were honest with each other, both mentally and physically. Qin Ziyi's heart was filled with happiness. He finally knew the depth of his sister's feelings. He was the happiest brother in the world. They had been through their youth and adolescence. Now that they had reached this point, they did not end up in a forgetful relationship. This was good. May all the lovers in the world eventually become lovers, Jie. Qin Bao Bao mumbled and woke up slowly. She rubbed her eyes and turned to look at Qin Ziyi. What time is it? Qin Ziyi whispered in her ear, 5 o'clock. It's still early. Stop fooling around. I'll sleep for a while more. Qin Bao Bao moved to the side to avoid the murderous aura under the blanket. Let's do it again, then you can sleep. Qin Ziyi was excited and did not feel sleepy at all. Qin Bao Bao's delicate body stiffened. She was shy and embarrassed. She had not completely broken free from the awkward emotions. The man behind her was not only the person she loved deeply, but also her brother. Although after puberty, the identity of her brother became less and less important. But after all, they had lived in the same house for more than 20 years. They called the same woman mother and the same man father. It was impossible to say that there was no kinship. One day, she rolled in the sheets with her brother. The strange emotions in her heart were difficult to express in words. There was awkwardness, shyness, sweetness, and a little stimulation. I'm tired. You don't look tired at all, Qin Ziyi complained. Why are you? He paused abruptly, almost saying the wrong thing. I wanted to say that you're just like Wang Zijin. You want to fall in love but you're afraid of being F***ked. At this time, if he mentioned Wang Zijin, his sister would probably get angry. For a long time, he couldn't take the initiative to mention Sister Ziwei. Once he did, it would offend his sister. Even if her sister was rolling on the same bed with him, having the most normal interaction between husband and wife, and her entire body was covered in his scent. That wasn't the right description. Yes, that's it. I'm just tired. If you touch me again, I'll go back to my room. Qin Bao Bao struggled to pry his hand away from her chest. His rough palm was burning hot. If she continued to let him tease her, she would probably succumb. Qin Ziyi didn't believe that his sister's physical strength was weak. A woman of her age had already developed well. She could endure the wind and rain. When they first met, she pushed him in pain, mainly because Qin Ziyi's Ding Zhonglong foam was really extraordinary. His sister's physical strength was definitely much stronger than Wang Zijin and Su Yu. Her physical quality was far better than the latter two. Qin Bao Bao was reluctant, but Qin Ziyi was no longer the salted fish of the past. Today, he finally became the tough Harai's king. You're young, aren't you? You curled up your body and turned your back to me. Can't I do anything? I'm afraid you haven't seen the Tathagata staff technique that attacks from behind. Qin Bao Bao snorted. When they woke up again, it was already 11:40 at noon. Qin Ziyi and his sister were awakened by the ringtone of the mobile phone. His sister looked tired. She opened her eyes and got up grumpy. She said angrily, "Is it your little bitch again? Give me the phone and scold her." Qin Ziyi squinted his sleepy eyes and reached for the bedside table. He grabbed the phone and looked at the caller ID. "Caller, Mom." Qin Ziyi quivered. Qin Bao Bao said, "Are you stupid? Hang up the phone. It's so noisy. I haven't slept enough." Qin Ziyi said in a deep voice, "The little bitch you're talking about is our mom. Are you sure you want to hang up?" Qin Bao Bao quivered. The brother and sister sat up from the bed suddenly. Their movements were uniform, and they both looked panicked. Qin Bao Bao got up and pulled the quilt. "I'll answer the phone. Don't make a sound." Qin Ziyi unconsciously lowered his voice, like a thief who had done something wrong. His sister nodded hard and stared at him nervously. After taking a deep breath, he picked up the phone. "Mom, what's the matter? It's lunchtime and you're not back yet. Are you going to eat or not?" "Bao Bao, she won't even answer the phone." Qin Ma complained over the phone. "Your Bao Bao is on my bed." His sister's mobile phone was in her room and she didn't bring it with her. Qin Ziyi coughed. "Well, my sister isn't feeling well, so she won't come over." "What's wrong now?" Qin Ma raised her voice. "Is she not feeling well? Or is she not feeling well? This girl is really annoying." In the past, she refused to find a partner no matter what. Now that she finally found one, she was dumped again. "Do you know that your sister is a troublemaker? She's already so old, but she still can't eat or sleep because of her." In Qin Ma's mind, Her daughter must have been hurt by love again. She probably tried to reconcile with him, but was rejected. Qin Ziyi and Qin Bao Bao looked at each other awkwardly. When you go home tonight, tell me who her boyfriend is. She won't tell me even if I ask her. She's so mysterious, Qin Ma said. Qin Ziyi was about to say that he would go home tonight, but his sister shook her head fiercely, her hair flying. So he changed the topic. Come back another day. Sister, she's really not feeling well. Is it serious? Yes, it's quite serious. Okay then. After ending the call, the siblings' tense nerves relaxed and they exhaled at the same time. Although they were dozens of kilometers away, they were in the same bed and talking to their mother on the phone, which made them feel very guilty. Sleep, again? Qin Ziyi saw that she looked tired. How could she not be tired? They went to sleep after 9 o'clock in the morning. Looking at the messy sheets, one could tell how crazy it was. Mom's phone call woke me up. Qin Bao Bao muttered, sleep for what? Then why didn't you go home at night? Are you afraid to face Mom and Dad? Qin Ziyi thought for a while and comforted, although we hid it from them, we'll have to meet them sooner or later. Sister, don't feel burdened. Don't talk nonsense. Qin Bao Bao hit his head with a knife. I'm in pain. I'll be found out when I go home. It was her first time doing it. Last night, she was tormented until the wee hours. In the morning, she was unrestrained. She didn't know if the iron pestle had been ground into a needle, but her whetstone couldn't bear the burden. I'm going to take a shower. Qin Bao Bao bent over to pick up the clothes on the ground, groping on the ground with one hand and holding the quilt with the other. Her smooth back was in full view in Qin Ziyi's eyes. The arc was graceful, and the tight waistline was sexy and beautiful. Half of her snow-white buttocks were exposed, and the other half was wrapped in the quilt. There was no comparison. Whether it was Su Yu's tall and slim figure or sister Ziwei's perfectly proportioned delicate body, they were inferior to his sister, a seductress. Qin Ziyi looked away and chanted Amitabha a few times. His sister was more than a little seductress, she was a juicer. Her body was too tempting for Qin Ziyi. In front of Su Yu and Wang Zijin, he could restrain himself, but in front of his sister, he could only be slightly stiff to show respect. He couldn't do it again. Even if Hai Ziyi King was getting stronger, he had to cherish it. Besides, his sister's body couldn't take it anymore. The bathrobe that Qin Bao Bao hooked was Qin Ziyi's. Her own was in the distance. Last night, Qin Ziyi threw it a little far away, so she had to lift the quilt and get out of bed. With one hand on her chest, she ran to pick it up. When she squatted down, the curve of her back was sexy and seductive. Qin Ziyi simply covered his head in the quilt. Out of sight, out of mind. Qin Bao Bao put on the bathrobe. Her phoenix-like eyes were fixed, and she pondered for a moment. I'm pregnant. What should I do? Qin Ziyi covered himself in the quilt and said in a dull voice, you think too much. It's hard to say. Qin Bao Bao blushed and kicked his butt with her foot. You came in so much. It's not so easy to have a baby. Qin Ziyi said in a bad mood, go take a shower. Su Yu had been waiting for more than half a year, but there was no movement in her belly. If it was so easy to have a baby, there wouldn't be so many infertility hospitals. Instant success was a plot in a novel, and it didn't conform to physiological knowledge at all. Even if she had a baby during conception, it was not 100% successful. The probability was about 60%. Hey, what's there to explain to a group of single dogs like you? Chapter 7:12. After waking up at noon, Qin Ziyi went to Bowser Investment. Tomorrow was the holiday, and the company was preparing to give out bonuses on the last day. He and Su Yu would meet with the department managers alone when the bonuses were given out. The annual meetings of Amethyst, Bowser, and Tianfang companies were held 2 weeks ago. At that time, the pirated game blindfolds were released. For Amethyst Technology, it was the worst news. The big sister boss had not come to work for a month. The employees of Amethyst Technology were worried about the company and its future. But fortunately, Qin Ziyi showed his rich financial resources and background at the annual meeting, stabilizing the morale of the employees. His sister was resting at home. Before coming out, She asked him to buy some anti-inflammatory pills. It was not that serious, but she was afraid of pain and wanted to recover as soon as possible. The reason why she did not dare to go home was that she walked a little awkwardly with her legs between her legs. The pain of broken gua could be easily seen by experienced people. Qin Ma's mind was delicate, or else he would not be able to see the feelings between the brother and sister that should not be there. When he took the anti-inflammatory pills, he muttered in his heart, Wang Zijin was bullied by this thing. Bowser Investment, General Manager's office. Qin Ziyi and Li Linfeng sat drinking tea. Su Yu was playing computer games behind the desk. Her legs in stockings were long and round. Her feet were out of women's leather shoes. Her heels rested on the leather shoes, and her toes were fighting with each other mischievously. There are 80 people in the company now. Qin Ziyi said, when Bowser was first established, you were the only manager. Back then, it was only a year and a half. But thinking of the situation back then and looking at the scale of Bowser today, Li Linfeng felt as if it was a lifetime ago. Yes, when I left Ju Li, I thought I would have to go back to the securities company to find a job. I was worried. Boss Qin, you pulled me in. I thought that since the treatment was okay, I would try it with you. Li Linfeng sighed. Who knew it would be on such a scale? Our Bowser is one of the top companies even in Shanghai, where the financial derivatives industry is everywhere. We are well known in the industry. In more than a year, Li Linfeng changed his house twice. His car changed from a BMW of more than 300,000 to a Mercedes-Benz of more than 1 million. It was all because of the man in front of him. When they met back then, he was a nobody. But now, he was already a big shot. He had witnessed with his own eyes the young and tender fresh graduate grow step by step into an all-powerful man. He had witnessed the birth of a legend. Because of this mentality, there was a sense of vicissitudes in the words back then. Where did that ingrate Shen Yushin go? It's like he vanished from the face of the earth. F***ck, he got off easy, Li Linfeng cursed. 300 million in exchange for him living in the dark for the rest of his life. It's hard to say whether it's a loss or a gain. Let's not talk about him, Qin Ziyi said. Even if Shen Yushin ran away with the company's money, everyone thought he was living in seclusion abroad. In fact, he was thrown into the Huangpu River by Sister Man Nan Man Pei thought that no one knew what he had done, but in fact, Qin Ziyi had heard it all in the car that day. No matter how high Ziyi King's martial arts were, he was still a law-abiding citizen. At that time, he was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Other people's catchphrases were really just catchphrases. Sister Man was simply too social. Qin Ziyi still had a psychological shadow, so even if Sister Man was mature and intellectual, and the best wife, Qin Ziyi still didn't dare to have anything with her. Moreover, Big Sister Man wouldn't like him. She was very clear about his messy feelings. How could Queen Man like a scumbag like him? To be honest, a woman like Sister Man was even better than his sister. Her figure was plump, and she had the charm of a wife. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the bonus was given out, and the meeting with the manager ended. Su Yu stretched out. This game is getting worse and worse. All of them are a group of primary school students. Qin Ziyi, you are getting more and more rude. You just open your mouth and swear. Su Yu rolled her eyes. I learned it from you. Last time you fed me cigarettes. The last time was a long time ago. When Qin Ziyi smoked after sex, Su Yu said, is it cool to smoke after sex? Qin Ziyi encouraged her to smoke one. He didn't like women who smoked, but he couldn't help but want to encourage her to smoke one for herself. It was like the old saying, men like clean women, but they can't help but dirty her. Su Yu put on her leather shoes, walked over, straddled him, and put her arms around his neck. You haven't hurt me for a long time. I have a hunch that I will definitely get pregnant. Qin Ziyi sneered, there are 3 great illusions in life, killing under the tower, and killing with residual blood. I can get pregnant. Su Yu pinched his face and glared angrily. Qin, don't poison me. If I can't have a baby, your old Qin family will have no descendants for a lifetime. Qin Ziyi, Su Yu, today you will cry for daddy. Lifting the round, plump buttocks under the suit, Qin Ziyi stood up, and Su Yu's legs wrapped around his waist. He locked the office door from the inside. There was not much ammunition in the warehouse. It was estimated that it would be difficult to come out. Suyu would definitely cry for mercy and call for daddy. Ring, ring, ring. The landline phone on the general manager's desk rang. Suyu jumped down from Chinzi, frowned, and complained, "It's a holiday tomorrow." So much nonsense. She grabbed the phone and said in a bad tone, "What's the matter?" The call was from the front desk, saying that there was a guest called Su Tong, who claimed to be Boss Su's father. When the company was small, the front desk would knock on the door. Now the company was big and far away, the front desk would call. Suyu's face suddenly became ugly. "What's the matter?" Chinzi asked. "Just say I'm not here." Suyu hung up the phone, her face as usual. "It's okay, let's go home and have a baby." "Let's go home first." Chinzi, who had a sharp ear, said directly, "Your father is here?" Suyu's pretty face changed slightly. "Nothing, just let me go home for the new year." "I don't want to go." Then, there was a knock on the door. Chinzi glanced at her and got up to open the door. Su Tong and the front desk girl were standing at the door. The front desk girl said helplessly, "Boss Chin, he insisted on breaking in. I asked the security to drive him away." Chinzi waved his hand and smiled. "Dad, why are you here?" When Su Tong saw him, his face darkened and he snorted, "Who is your dad?" "Don't call me that." Chinzi was surprised and confused. He and Suyu had confirmed their relationship and met their parents. It was normal to call him dad. He called him that in the hotel room, and Su Tong did not object. Suyu said loudly, "He is my husband." "What's wrong with calling you dad?" Su Tong heard this and his face became angrier. "Are you still on his side? Why didn't he think that he was your husband when he entered the hotel with another woman?" It turned out to be about this. Chinzi came to his senses. He should have thought about it. It was such a big thing that the internet had been buzzing for more than half a month. The Su family was not new to the internet, so they naturally knew about it. It was just that at that time, he was mentally and physically exhausted by his sister and Wang Zijin and neglected the feelings of the Su family. "Who cares about you guys? You guys are not good to my wife at all." Suyu said coldly, "That's my business." "I care about your business." Su Tong was furious and shouted, "Your surname is Su." Suyu was tit for tat, "Have you ever cared about me? You didn't like to talk to me since I was a child. Anyway, I'm just a daughter of your ex-wife. You can just take care of your son and pretend that I don't exist." Su Tong trembled with anger. "Is this scumbag worth it? You didn't answer my calls for him. You didn't open the door for me when I went to the community to look for you. You tried every way to avoid me. Do you know that you are degrading yourself? As long as I'm your father, I won't allow you to continue to be with him." Suyu's eyes were red and she suddenly exploded. "Since you know that you are my father, why don't you treat me better? Why don't you care about me? When that woman bullied me in private, why don't you help me and protect me? You only have your son in your eyes. Why don't you think that I'm also your daughter at that time? Do you know how lonely and wronged I am? My parents don't take me seriously. I only have him. What else do you want? Get out." This might be the first time in more than 20 years that his daughter roared at him and said the word "get out" to him. Su Tong was stunned and couldn't speak for a long time. Suyu bit her lip and tears were rolling in her eyes, but she stubbornly refused to flow out and held on. Chinzi suddenly thought of the day when his sister returned to Shanghai. Suyu was drunk at Nan Man Pei's house. Did she also have several disputes with her father and mother in such an environment? She stubbornly spoke up for the man who let her down and suffered grievances. She had no friends, so she could only go to her best friend's house and get drunk. No wonder she said so many excessive drunken words and said that she would throw Wang Zijin out of the building to her death. She chose to throw Wang Zijin to her death instead of a half-hearted scumbag. In the end, she still couldn't bear to do it. Qin Zed's heart ached. He remembered that when he and his sister traveled to Hangzhou last year, they asked for a lot in the temple in the mountains. The sentence "when I was young, I always made empty promises. Now I regret my rash words" left a deep impression on him. When Sister Ziwei left a message and left Shanghai sadly, Qin Zi sat for a night. He knew that the sentence was right. He was young and inexperienced in relationships. He was not cautious and steady enough in relationships. He told Wang Zijin that he wanted to get engaged, get married, and grow old together. He told his sister that he would not let her down when he was young and absurd. He told Su Yu that they would have children together. He didn't know how many tears Wang Zijin shed when she typed the farewell letter. But he knew that when he said "I may not marry you," something in his sister's eyes collapsed. He also knew the pain in Su Yu's heart at this time. The scene suddenly became silent, and Su Tong's face changed. Su Yu tried to hold back her tears and refused to show her weak side in front of her father. Qin Ziyi rubbed his face and rubbed his sour nose. He whispered, you go out first. I want to talk to Uncle Su." Su Yu bit her lip and pretended not to hear. Qin Ziyi said softly, "Go out first." After hesitating for a moment, she nodded silently and passed by her father with no expression. She went out and closed the door. Chapter 7:13. Uncle Su, I apologize for what happened on the internet. But I can assure you that if Su Yu follows me, she will be happy, there will be someone to take care of her, and there will be someone to love her. I dare not say that she will be happy every day, but I can guarantee that she will not be alone in the future. Qin Ziyi's eyes were sincere. Su Tong's mouth twitched. She's not alone now. You don't have to say something nice. You're a two-timer. How shameless can you be? Qin Ziyi sneered. Yeah, you're a two-timer. How shameless can you be? Su Tong's face turned livid when the last thing he wanted to talk about was exposed in front of him. He was about to explode. Since I've said it, I'll be frank. I won't agree to you being with you. A scumbag like you can't be my son-in-law. Su Tong said, you can refute me or even mock me. I'll accept it. But you is my daughter. If she wants to be with someone like you, I won't agree. He should have told Qin Ziyi earlier, but after thinking about it, he didn't have any advantage. If it were a poor boy, Su Tong would have taken out a check without hesitation. You can fill in the number yourself, as long as you leave my daughter's world and get out of here. Obviously, this trick wouldn't work. Qin Ziyi was richer than him. Su Tong didn't have his contact information, so he couldn't ask him out alone. I'm also happy to be honest with you, Uncle Su, Qin Ziyi said. Being honest with each other. Something felt strange, Qin Ziyi thought to himself. He felt strange about any idiom he saw now. Ahem. Qin Ziyi said, a man like me isn't good enough for you, right? Or do you think the son of your best friend is more suitable? Sorry, forgive me for not remembering his name. We're men, so it's better for us to talk about it openly. Is your friend's son a virgin who keeps his chastity like jade? Won't he be two-timing in the future? Won't he have a mistress or a mistress? At least I'm not married, so how can you belittle me when you don't understand that I'm having an affair? Su Tong said angrily, because I am her father. If you weren't her father, would you be sitting here talking to me? Qin Ziyi smiled. Hai Ziyi King exuded an extremely powerful aura, which was a kind of great confidence in his financial resources and ability. Even an experienced and successful man like Su Tong felt a little pressured. Speaking of it, I want to thank you as a father. Because of your indifference, you pushed Su Yu into my arms. She's actually a very lonely person. You divorced her mother a long time ago and only cared about being angry. Have you ever thought about her feelings when she was young? Her stepmother made things difficult for her behind her back, making her feel like she was living under someone else's roof. Her sense of belonging to her family and her love for you gradually disappeared. It was normal for a mistress to take over a magpie's nest and harshly treat the ex's child. The person she hates the most is not her stepmother, but you. Uncle Su started from scratch and established a huge business. With your intelligence, do you really not know anything about it? Qin Ziyi shook his head. You just don't want to care about it. What's wrong with scolding and beating her? You'll lose a piece of meat. Why should you let the rebuilt family have a lot of conflicts because of your daughter? Besides, this woman also gave birth to a son for you. The son is definitely more important than the daughter. After all, the daughter is the water that has been poured out, and the son will inherit your expanding foundation in the future. Your ex-wife is really the same as you. It's true that you're a family. No wonder you liked each other back then. After finding a new lover in the United States, she also gave birth to a son. She was very satisfied with the new family and the democratic and free environment in the United States. She didn't think about the sad things of the past. After Suyu went to college, she flew all the way to the United States to find her. She just wanted to get some warmth from her that her father couldn't give her, but she was suddenly hit by her own mother. Mother didn't like her either. When she saw her, she thought of you as a heartless man and hated the house, so she hated the house and its crow. But after all, she was her own daughter. Mother couldn't be cruel to her, so she kept a distance that was neither estranged nor intimate. She gave her cold treatment for 4 years. Suyu said that her mother was not as warm to her as her stepfather. After so many years, she finally became a very, very solitary girl. Because she felt that the world was so big, but she didn't have a home. What's the difference between a person without paternal and maternal love and an orphan? So she loved me very much, because I was all she had. She regained love and warmth from me, like a sailboat that had drifted for many years and found its harbor. Uncle Su, marriage is a matter of 2 families, but I hope you don't interfere in the relationship between me and her. If your ex-wife comes to me, I'll answer the same way. Suyu is the daughter-in-law of the Qin family. I have the final say in her affairs. I don't allow you to interfere. Reflect on Suyu's attitude towards you and what you've done over the years. Since this daughter is dispensable, why do you want to extinguish her hope? I'll be very grateful for your mercy. I don't dare to say that I'm devoted, but I can guarantee that she won't be lonely for the rest of her life. Su Tong was silent. He had no expression, but the look in his eyes was complicated. Qin Ziyi said coldly, "Don't add to her heart. If she's sad, I'm sad too. If I'm sad, you have to be sad. Uncle Su, you don't want your son to have nothing in the future, do you?" Harai's king was different from Salted Fish Lake. The former had a sharp edge and a strong aggressiveness. He represented a boss with a net worth of tens of billions and was an unreasonable cheat. A cheat should have the edge and dominance of a cheat. Su Tong left without agreeing or objecting. When he passed by Suyu, who was standing at the door, this strong, domineering, or even headstrong man opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. After he left, Suyu entered the office and said in surprise, "What did you say to my dad?" "All right, let's go." Qin Ziyi was even more surprised and disappointed. "Didn't you hear it?" Suyu blinked. "Our office has a special soundproof door. What can I hear?" Qin Ziyi was speechless. Add one more to the 3 major illusions of life. I thought I could act cool. Forget it. Close the door and let's have a baby. No, I'm not in the mood. Suyu sat behind the desk. Are you coming to my house or going home tonight? Qin Ziyi hesitated a little. Let's go home. Suyu, then it's time to get off work. You can go. I have to go home after dealing with some things. After a kiss, Qin Ziyi picked up the coat on the sofa and left Bowser. Suyu sat alone in the office chair, looking through the glass wall at the most prosperous area of Pudong, crying and laughing. P.S. Is it because you didn't get full marks in reading comprehension, or I can't express it clearly? The so-called brainless harem is a harem text in the style of Long Outyen. What I wrote is a realistic harem text, which is destined to be intertwined with sadness and joy. Well, there is a harem in reality, and there are many of them. As a single dog, isn't it heartbreaking? I'm heartbroken. I've been trying to write it realistically, so the male protagonist will seem scumbag. In reality, any man who has a harem is a scumbag. This is a fact. There should be another chapter in the evening. Chapter 714. Suyu's family didn't need to be considered. Their relationship was weak. As for her father, except for Su Tong, her stepmother and brother basically didn't care about her life and death. As for her mother, there was a large group of poor relatives. They didn't dare to come to the door. Even if they came to the door, they couldn't speak with a straight back. Qin Ziyi didn't need to come forward. Suyu could deal with them alone. She was a very pitiful girl. An unhappy family experience was a plus in some aspects. For example, if the old man knew, he wouldn't be so calm. He would pull out a big magic weapon from his waist, a belt. He would teach Qin Ziyi how to be a man. The old man had been a teacher for most of his life. It was estimated that he couldn't change his bad habit of taking care of everything. Qin Ziyi could only endure it. After all, he was his son. As a man who had been a teacher for decades, he shouldn't be too obsessed with mental cleanliness. If he knew that his son wasn't his biological son, he would explode on the spot. If he knew the love between his son and daughter, he would explode with the whole family. Triple Kill It was reasonable for her sister and Qin Ziyi to be scared. Everything was the choice of the Stone of Fate. But fortunately, Qin Bao Bao had a detailed plan. First of all, her brother had to get married. Although the old man loved his daughter more, he still valued boys over girls. It was inevitable that his daughter would be worried if she didn't get married, but he could accept it. But his son must get married and have children. Otherwise, the Qin family's bloodline would be cut off. Qin Ma's words actually carried the least weight at home. Her protests were easily ignored by the whole family. So in the future, Qin Bao Bao could be single for many years. Then when she was about the age, she would be ready to have children. At that time, she would break up. She could kick a man or be kicked by a man. It was normal for single mothers in big cities. She would leave the children to her parents and let them be grandparents and grandparents. Anyway, they were. The plan was perfect. Qin Ziyi went home to cook for his sister, who had a perfect plan. After Wang Zijin left, the meal became much simpler. Usually, it was 3 dishes and a soup, but Qin Ziyi cooked a lot today. They were all nutritious. Before dinner, please have a small bowl of lotus seed, longan and egg flour soup. It's sweet. Before serving the dishes, Qin Ziyi filled a small bowl for his sister. It's delicious, isn't it? Qin Ziyi watched her finish the drink. It's sweet but not greasy. It's delicious. Qin Bao Bao nodded vigorously. Qin Bao Bao's eyes were full of smiles. In the past, although her younger brother was very obedient to her, he had never taken care of her so meticulously like today. Getting on base was indeed different. Then the dishes were served. The richness of the dishes surprised Qin Bao Bao. The first dish to be served was turtle soup, which was rarely seen in home-cooked dishes. Sprinkled with wolfberries, it was steaming hot and emitted a seductive aroma. Next was a bowl of black chicken soup, donkey-hide gelatin stewed chicken. Then there were garlic scallops, stir-fried sea cucumbers, chives scrambled eggs. She widened her bright eyes and opened her mouth slightly. So many dishes, I've fed you until you're white and plump. Qin Ziyi smiled. Qin Bao Bao's lips curled. She felt sweet inside, but deliberately found fault with him. You're not sincere. It's chicken stewed with mushrooms. That thing doesn't nourish the kidneys, Qin Ziyi said. Qin Bao Bao was stunned. She stopped smiling. What do you mean? Looking at the dishes on the table, she felt that something was wrong. It's nourishing the kidneys, Qin Ziyi said frankly. It's nourishing the kidneys for you. Women need to nourish the kidneys too. Otherwise, they'll age quickly. If your kidneys are weak, what about me? Do you think last night was just my extraordinary performance? Tonight, I'll show you something even better. Qin Bao Bao, the sweetness and feelings suddenly disappeared, as if Wang Zijin had stolen them. Qin Bao Bao's mouth twitched. The sweet soup just now, Qin Ziyi gave her a thumbs up. It's the best nourishing the kidneys. The dishes on this table, donkey-hide gelatin stewed with chicken soup. It's nourishing and beautifying. Turtle and wolfberry soup. It's nourishing for the kidneys. Dried scallops and sea cucumbers are nourishing for the kidneys. Chives scrambled eggs are amazing. It's suitable for both men and women. Hurry up and eat, sister. I'm looking forward to tonight. Qin Ziyi was enraptured. Qin Bao Bao, no, I'm still in pain. I asked you just now. You said it doesn't hurt anymore. You've also recovered your walking posture. I'm in pain again. Then I'll be gentler tonight. So, he fed me until I'm white and plump. It's all for himself. Qin Bao Bao was so angry that she wanted to pour the chicken soup and turtle soup over his head. Just like a young couple, The wedding night was just the beginning. In the next few years, the husband would inevitably ask for sex every day, and they would hate the unreasonable menstrual period. After a few years, they would fall in love with the menstrual period, which was a holiday set by God in consideration of the man's hard work. Before marriage, the menstrual period was a hindrance, but after marriage, the menstrual period was a savior. His sister, who had just had sex, was much more shy and resistant. She was not like most girls, who might marry a few times or even a dozen times. Therefore, she was in a state where she wanted to refuse but was too shy to say it out loud. But in the end, she was still willing and happy. Therefore, when Qin Ziyi shamelessly asked for a couple's bath, his sister blushed and said nothing, but she did not lock the door. In the bathtub, steam rose. The air was filled with the faint scent of perfume and the faint fragrance of flowers. Qin Bao Bao sprinkled half a bag of dried roses in the bathtub to cover her body. Together with the steam rising in spirals, it formed a natural mosaic. Qin Ziyi shamelessly asked to help his sister bathe, but his hands only lingered on her sexy buttocks and full breasts. At first, Qin Bao Bao was still resisting. Later, she felt quite good. She collapsed in his arms, eyes blurred and panting. "Then I'll do it." Qin Ziyi lifted his sister's buttocks in the water. Qin Bao Bao, whose legs were weak, immediately shook her head. "After the bath, go back to the room. I don't have the strength now. You just have to come up." Qin Ziyi bragged. "Huh." Qin Bao Bao looked at him. "What if it breaks?" She actually took it seriously. Qin Ziyi said, "It's not that weak. The great sage, Heaven's equal, has been beating female demons for 100,000 miles without breaking, right? If necessary, he can beat male demons too." The calm surface of the bathtub rippled, and then small splashes splashed. The small splashes became big splashes, and the entire surface of the bathtub rippled. The process lasted for about half an hour. His sister's singing echoed in the bathroom for half an hour. At this moment, Qin Ziyi, who had good hearing, heard the heavy anti-theft door close with a click. The sound was very loud, but ordinary people would not be able to hear it in the bathroom. Instantly, he woke up from the extreme pleasure. His body stiffened. "Someone's here." Qin Bao Bao's eyes were like silk. Her red lips parted slightly, and sweet moans came out of her mouth. She did not hear anything. She was still in the happy atmosphere. "Someone's here," Qin Ziyi said in a low voice. He gently patted his sister's face to wake her up. "Someone's here?" Qin Bao Bao immediately became alert. The blurriness in her eyes quickly faded. When she pushed Qin Ziyi away, she could not help but say, "Is Wang Zijin back?" Qin Ziyi said, "Sister Ziwei left the key in the drawer in the room." Qin Bao Bao said, "Then," Qin Ziyi said in a serious tone, "other than the three of us, only our mother has the key." The siblings looked at each other in silence. They saw the strong desire to live in each other's eyes.